the screen.
talk about
Okay,
it.
ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Go live. All right.
All right.
So let's see. What did he say about this?
Refresh my memory. What did our good friend Jay Bauman have to say about men?
The last act of Alex Garland's Men is some of the best, most fucked up nightmare filmmaking I've seen in a long time. It was creative and affecting without just being cheap shock value, and I'm assuming a lot of people hated it. Well, you know, you're not wrong, at least on this, not on this podcast. Well represented on the men hate.
And to anyone whose complaint is that the message isn't subtle, does it have to be? This is coming from someone who loves society, so do with that what you will. I never quite understood what he meant by that.
What the fuck does he mean by that? Yeah.
This is coming from someone who loves society. I've never felt compelled to say that ever, actually, just on a personal level. But if you think the message is that all men are bad, then your brain may be made of mashed potatoes.
Oh
now,
God. Well.
As
shit,
an
I
Irishman,
got bad news for myself.
I found that to be offensive. I just want to put that. Yeah. No. So he seems to have loved men. And
hold on. He says he seems to have loved it, but he doesn't know. Maybe I just didn't take the movie too seriously. Rory Kinnear plays every role and looks like he's on some cheap British sketch comedy show, for crying out loud. Yes, it also looks bad.
It's very astute of you, Jay. I can't tell if that's the sort of defensive sort of criticism or like defense against criticism where you say, just don't take it seriously. I mean, who cares? I had fun. I mean, I watched like 8 men give birth to each other in succession, and that's
a good night for me. That's a good Tuesday night in my book.
Yeah. I personally, I just love it when people say, "Oh, there's so much more to the message of men than all men are bad. You guys just have a reductive view." And then you go, "Oh, well, what's it about then?" And then they never answer that part.
No.
I'm not sure what it is. Did I tell you I listened to Sardonicast talk about men?
Yeah.
And this is my impression of their discussion. You ready?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Men is about gender and trauma and the way it handles these ideas in really interesting ways. I just found so interesting the way it handles these ideas about gender and trauma. People who say that the movies about men are bad, I just think they're missing the point about how it's about gender and trauma. That was their discussion, essentially.
Yeah.
If you think
if you think that the message is all men are bad, I can see why you think that, but I think you're wrong. Because...
Yeah, they never answered the question, what about gender and trauma?
What is it trying to say? That kind of matters.
Those things? Hey, that might actually be relevant to what we're here to talk about today. Hello, friends.
Hello, everyone.
How's it going? Did you guys see Nope? Or are you one of the poor unfortunate souls that lives in Europe where it's not out until August 12th?
That's such a crazy long gap between release times. I feel like normally the European theaters get stuff early, don't they?
Yeah, usually they do. I remember we had, like, some places got Dune way early.
Yeah.
A long time for it. They're not blessed with Nope. They don't get to find out whether it is dope or not until August 12th. And so, too bad for them. We're going to be spoiling it. So if you don't want the movie spoiled,
and you are in Europe, exclusively that.
Yeah, you're going to be in for a bad time. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to have a great time. We're going to be talking about Nope. Nope is the newest Jordan Peele horror outing after Get Out and Us.
Mm-hmm.
Unless you include some of the Twilight Zone.
I don't. I didn't watch any of it. So
I watched they released one on YouTube because I think the rest went straight to Paramount Plus or something.
Yeah, CBS All Access, some
Yeah,
short-lived like crappy streaming service that disappeared within 6 months.
The only Twilight Zone episode that I saw was the one that they put on YouTube, and it's the one with Kumail Nanjiani where he's a comedian. but
It did not.
like, but there isn't any funny jokes in the episode. It was really bad, and it was hardly the kind of thing that would get me excited about paying for another streaming service to watch more of these. So
Yeah, yeah.
I
So,
didn't.
what do you think? Before we get into no, what do you think of Get Out and Us? Like real quick, one to fire off.
I liked Get Out when I watched it, and the more I think about it, the more I don't like it. Uh,
Okay.
the more I think about Get Out, the more the plot falls apart. But it has a pretty straightforward story and a straightforward horror premise that I appreciate. I like a lot of the performances. I would comfortably say it's his best work. Get Out.
Okay.
Um, I never saw Us.
Oh, you didn't. Oh, okay.
I never actually got around to seeing it. I've heard you talk about it at length. I've watched a bunch of reviews. From Have you ever seen ER's review of Us? It's funny.
I don't. I don't know if I have.
I don't know if you would like it. Did you like Us? I can't remember.
So okay. So this is one of the things that I like. Jordan Peele seems to be one of those things, one of those spots with me where like I'll watch his movies, and each time, the first time, I'm like, I think I enjoyed it, and then the more I think about it, the more I'm just kind of like, did I enjoy it, or was there just some neat stuff?
Yeah.
I don't know. So
I'll tell you what put me off Us is that it really seemed like everything about the literal story was sacrificed for like the metaphors and the themes. It was all about the themes. That's all anyone talked about. And then what few videos I watched of people discussing what actually literally happens were like, yeah, nothing that literally happens makes any sense, but it's not about that. And that put me off straight away.
the thing
I never
that
actually
really
watched it.
kind of the thing that irritated me most about that one, the more I thought about it, because I've seen it twice now, and the second time it got worse because I started questioning a lot of stuff about like the logistics of how that whole operation would function and like the fact that there's duplicate people on for each person, and they have to take the same actions except when they don't, except when the plot needs them to. They can't resist it.
Yeah.
And I remember kind of being like, yeah, I guess it's kind of a high idea, bad execution. And then I started thinking about it more, and I was like, I don't really know if there is a high idea to it. I'm not even really sure what the theme of the movie is supposed to be. It's very
Yeah.
confused and kind of underwhelming after like two or three watches. And I like each time with Jordan Peele, I've been like, the first time I'm like, oh, I think I liked that, and then the second time I'm like, did I like that? And then I've never gone
but did
back to
I
a third
really?
time. I've never gone back
Yeah.
for a third viewing because I'm pretty sure that if I do, I'm just not gonna enjoy it. So
Interesting. So, with that in mind, what did you think of Nope?
I came out of the theater thinking I think I might have enjoyed that a little bit, and then then you intimated to me that maybe you hadn't, which we can get into. And I started to think about it and go, I wonder why that would be. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, oh, I'm not really sure I enjoyed it all that much anymore.
Okay, so what did you like about it at first? Give me that initial impression walking out of the theater.
So I liked some of the visuals. I thought that there was there was some very cool, practical, possibly practical. I guess some of it looked very practical. Some of the effects. I liked
Mm-hmm.
Daniel Kaluuya's character. Actually, I just kind of thought he was kind of cool, and
Yeah, I liked him too. We'll get into it, but keep going.
and I liked some of the cinematography. I liked some of the editing choices, which I thought were really interesting. I liked some of the I liked the scene with the chimpanzee, which I thought was quite effective, mostly because I am terrified of chimpanzees myself. So maybe
Okay.
that's a little biasing. But
Did you like it both times we saw it?
uh, we'll get into that.
Okay.
We will get into that.
Yeah.
there was a couple of things that I enjoyed. I the tw- the twist was something, and at the time I was just happy that it wasn't about racist aliens. So
Yeah, let's start there, actually. I was also pleasantly surprised that this movie wasn't about racism. I fully expected it to be. I remember we talked about it a little bit before we saw it, that it was plausible, given who Jordan Peele is, that the twist was going to be that the aliens aren't actually people from outer space. It's just like the government.
yes, yes,
Like, and the government who would be very much coded as white. And when you floated that as a possibility, I was like, oh no, that's what it's gonna be, because that's how
yeah,
little faith I have in Jordan Peele, especially when it comes to social commentary, which seems to be what he's obsessed with nowadays. This is evidently true if you watch the Twilight Zone stuff. Oh boy,
that yeah,
but
I've heard that, which is one of the reasons why I chose not to partake.
yeah, and so anyone who was worried that that was going to be what this movie is as well, I think you'd be pleasantly surprised to know that it isn't. This
Yeah,
isn't a movie that's really about racism or race relations, really. It doesn't play a role like it does in some of the other movies, for better or for worse. It has different ideas to explore this time around, and you know what?
yeah.
Good for him, at least having
He
something else on his brain. That's good.
yeah, and the experience I had in the theater kind of made me worried that I was about to have a very bad time. And I think I actually texted you that I had shown up in a trucker hat with no mask to a theater full of people who were fist pumping to the Emmett Till trailer and the Woman King
The Woman King. Oh
trailer.
God, don't get me started on the Woman King.
And
That
I
might
was a
be
little
something we have
worried
to
that I
cover.
might. I was like, "Oh, please don't be about identity politics." And I think I was surprised enough that I managed to have a good time despite some things that I know I questioned, but that I just
Yeah.
kind of let go.
Yeah, so, well, that was kind of an interesting thing to me that it was kind of like a 50-50 split for me, the trailers that played before Nope in the theater. Half of them uh, were black movies. Like, that's the only way to describe it. One of them was a biopic about Emmett Till. That's a very much one of those kind of like black pain movies that's all about trauma and grief and racism and how horrible America used to be. It's one of those movies. But then there was The Woman King, which is a weird sort of historical revisionist, like girl boss movie about African warriors. And I'm like, that's interesting that a lot of the trailers that played before this are like half of them are about that, and then the other half are actual horror movies. So there was a trailer for that new Smile movie, which looks really bad, by the way.
Yeah,
Did you see that
I
one?
think I did see that one. Yeah,
Yeah.
it
And
was
the
kind of
menu,
goofy.
the one that I'm actually legit excited for with Ray Fiennes, the menu where he's a chef.
Yeah, that one looks pretty
Anyway,
good. I mean, I'll watch almost anything with Ray Fiennes.
yeah,
So
he's
he's
great.
very good. I also did see
Oh,
the trailer for
God.
Beast. Did you happen to catch that one?
Is Beast the one with Idris Elba fighting a giant lion?
Yes, that is that one. I believe there might be a hippo involved in this as well, because I saw the South African guy from the A Team wading in the water, and there was like some ripples going. I was like, oh boy, a hippo,
Oh.
a Jaws like hippo movie. I'd be down to see that.
Now I wish the hippo was the main villain. And
Yeah,
not
me
the
too.
lion. It's just more interesting. So, Nope.
Yes, let's
Uh,
go ahead and jump in.
So this is my general take on the film. I think the first act is really good, like legitimately good. I wouldn't change much of anything about the first act of the movie. I think it's solid. It sets up a lot of interesting character directions the story can go in. It sets up the main premise. The premise, of course, being that there is a UFO floating around this ranch out in the middle of nowhere, California. It sets up the premise well. It sets up our characters well. There's a lot of room for growth with the characters. Um, and then the second and third act absolutely sucked. I I left this movie thinking it was a waste. It was a waste of potential. It was a waste of my time. It was a waste of a lot of interesting characters and plot threads that could have been very interesting to see explored. It was a waste. I thought especially the second and third act, it gets a little weird with the third act because it's not clear where that actually starts. That's how much of a mess it is. But
That's a good point, yeah.
the back 75% of the movie sucked. It was so incredibly boring for me beyond a certain point. I was just dying for it to be over already. I don't think it's very good. And it's a shame because I do think the first act is pretty good. The first act sets up a lot of things that the rest of the movie wastes. And we can talk about it if you'd like.
Please, let's do it.
So, the movie starts kind of an odd way, I would say. The movie opens with a CGI chimpanzee wreaking havoc on a 90s sitcom set. At this point in the movie, the set is mostly empty. We can see a couple bodies on the ground behind a couch, and the chimpanzee has blood all over his face, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he's done some damage. I don't think we really established much of anything about it at the time. It's very kind of surreal, especially when you know what the movie is supposed to be about. You wonder, what the fuck am I watching right now?
Yeah, that's exactly what happened.
And it's a good way to start the movie, I think. And I do think it does some interesting character work for a character who will show up later.
I would agree with that too, yeah.
It starts off on a strong, strange note. And I liked that.
Well, and so I think describing the shot is kind of one of the things that got me. I want to just express how unsettling this is for someone who has a rather irrational fear of chimpanzees. It's the chimpanzee kind of taps one of the bodies on the foot a couple times and then like brushes its head like it's frustrated or upset, and then it looks like straight down the barrel of the lens with all the blood all over it, and then it just cuts away, and I was already kind of unsettled by the time we got started with this.
Okay, so did it bother you at all that it's such an obviously fake CGI
a little bit?
Because that took me out of it. I mean, I don't know how you can get the shots they wanted without doing a fully CGI, like Planet of the Apes style CGI character for the chimpanzee, but it was very distracting for me. It didn't look real, and it kind of took me out of it.
A little bit, yeah. I kind of noticed because I forgot to put my glasses on when I was watching it first, and then I remembered, and I was like, "Oh, that doesn't look great."
Unfortunately for the movie, you remembered to put your glasses on.
Yeah.
Right from that, we jump into... What do we jump into? Is it him on the set of the commercial? I think it is.
Is it, or is it him with his dad?
Oh, it's him with his dad. You're right. Okay, so we see Daniel Kaluuya. He is working at a ranch, a horse ranch, with his father. He's tending to the horses who are being kind of walked around in a circle by, I don't know what you call that, but it keeps the horses moving. He's working with the horses. His dad's training a horse that we will come to know as Ghost. The horses feature rather prominently in the story, so the names are important.
They get title cards.
Ghost. They do get title cards. I don't like the title cards, but we'll get to that. They're going about their business. He's trying. His dad is trying to train this horse when we start to hear various things fall from the sky. Right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and I thought that was pretty effective too. They're kind of zipping down and smacking into the dirt and sending up
before we see anything more important there, the dad says, like, "Where's your sister? Like, she should be here too." And the son doesn't really want to get into it, but So we established that the sister is not active in the ranching work. So anyway, some stuff is falling from the sky. Can't tell what it is, but it's zip, pew pew, and it's like hitting things. And then we turn around to notice that something is up with the dad, who's still on the horse. The horse starts to walk away, but the dad isn't responding to Daniel Kaluuya anymore. He kind of walks out of the pen, the horse does, and then the dad falls off the horse. And so Daniel Kaluuya runs over to him, and then we see him being driven to the hospital. The dad is in a bad way. He's got blood all over his face, but we're not really sure what happened yet. And the Daniel Kaluuya is trying to keep him awake by asking him to name the horses they have, which is an interesting way of establishing some of that information. And it makes a lot of sense. As we'll see, Daniel Kaluuya's character is fairly competent, and I like him a lot, actually. Yeah. And so this little detail of him like trying to keep his dad awake as he drives him to the hospital, pretty effective. We get to the hospital, and his dad didn't make it. His dad is lying dead in the doctor's office.
Pretty gruesome looking shot. I like it.
Pretty gruesome looking shot where something has happened to his eye. And then we get X-ray pictures that confirm that what looks like a nickel, I believe.
Yeah, it's a nickel. A nickel has fallen from the sky and...
Fallen from the sky, struck him in the face, and is now lodged in his brain and killed him. So eventually we'll discover that there were other things falling from the sky as well. It wasn't just money. I think there's keys and other...
There's a key that's stuck in the horse's ass, right?
Right, yeah, there's different bits and bobs. All right, so the dad is dead. Off to a pretty...
We've already gotten Keith David out of the movie, which is, not the best use of Keith David, but okay.
Who's Keith David? I don't really
that's the actor from who's playing his father. He's in a lot of stuff.
Oh, that guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know him best from Mass Effect, so yeah.
And then, soon after, I think directly after that, we find Daniel Kaluuya on the set of the film commercial, right? Is that right?
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, it's been a couple months. It doesn't tell us that it's been a couple months, but we find out that it has. Yeah. He's on set.
And Daniel Kaluuya is a horse trainer for the movies. That's what he and his dad did. This horse ranch they have is in California, and they work in the film industry. And so we find Daniel Kaluuya. He's on the set of some commercial of some kind, it's not really specified, there with a horse named Lucky. And he's waiting on the rest of, quote, his people to arrive. And meanwhile, the production is trying to kind of rush him and get him to move along with the production. The main actress is like, I'm ready to go, let's shoot this thing. And he's like, I'm still waiting for my people, but they haven't had a safety meeting yet. A safety meeting happens a lot when you have, when you have animals or picture vehicles or any sort of special effects. Like you're going to have a fire on the set, and so you'll bring in the fire people to do a safety meeting, and they'll sort of explain the do's and don'ts of how to keep everyone safe on set, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
this is where we get the introduction to my favorite returning gag from this movie. Daniel Kaluuya's name is OJ.
Yes.
We find that out. And the main actress hears this and kind of gives him a look with a nervous smile and says...
your name's OJ?
Your name
He's
is
like,
OJ?
Yeah, Otis Jr. And she's like, okay. So
a very nervous smile. And I got to tell you, I laughed every time.
It's a good little... it's a funny little joke that he's named OJ. Doesn't really affect much at all. It's kind of funny that he's like, yeah, my name's Otis Jr. And she's like, okay.
Oh.
Sure. She's probably thinking in her head something like, I probably wouldn't go by that if I were you, but okay. Yes, so eventually his sister, whose name is Emerald, is that right? She goes by M?
Yes.
She shows up. And she is much more charismatic than he is. He's very reserved. He's just there to take care of the horse. He's not really good with people. She comes in, and she's the center of attention. And she comes in right during the beginning of the safety meeting, and then she goes, basically, she starts pitching herself instead of actually
Yes.
doing a very good job as like animal handler people, like telling everyone what to do to be safe. She starts pitching their business, and this is where we get what we probably saw in the trailer, is the conversation about, did you know that the first 2 seconds of film ever put together was a 2 second clip of a black man on a horse? As it turns out, that, you might have seen that before if you've ever looked up the history of film. It's a 2 second clip of a guy riding a horse. That turns out to be their great 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 grandfather. And they have been this business where they've been
Training show horses.
Training
basically.
show horses for the movies is something that's been in their family for a number of years. So she's doing the pitch. She's basically selling the business. But then she starts selling the other stuff she does. Oh, also I write and I direct and I can sing and I can do crafty. If you need anything at all, just hit me up. She starts selling herself, and people kind of clap, and then safety meetings over.
Safety meetings over. No safety tips have been discussed.
Not really. They say, like, no flash photography, no sudden loud noises. That's all they really say, but they don't do a very good job of that. And then the commercial's about to go underway. The horse gets worked up when he sees his reflection in a VFX. I don't even know what to call this thing, but it's something that VFX artists use. Like, they put it out in front of the camera to, like...
It's like a mirror ball on a stick, right?
Yeah, I can't tell you exactly what it does.
I don't know what it does either, but...
The horse sees its reflection and gets spooked and kicks a hair and makeup person's makeup bag, and, like, powder goes everywhere, and people get freaked out, right? So things get rather tense. The horse almost kicks someone to death, and then they get fired from the gig. They decide to, in one of my favorite visual gags, because they don't draw a lot of attention to it, as he's being fired from the gig, like, hey man, maybe next time, maybe you're not ready for it, maybe you're not ready for this gig, so soon after your dad died, because he was the real guy who was in charge of this business. As they're having this conversation, you see them wheel in, like, a green CGI horse prop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's pretty good. There's some legitimately funny little visual gags and jokes in this movie. We'll talk about them as they come up. But they get fired from this gig, and he implies that he needs the money. They're falling on hard times.
They're not doing very well since his father died, and he's not getting a lot of offers, and he kind of needs this one to happen, and it's not going to happen. And so he leaves dejected and disappointed. And I believe this is when he has to go. He takes M, and they have to go sell a horse. Correct?
Yes, they go to a nearby ranch where they have a sort of like a pioneer outlaw western. What would you call this?
It's like a little amusement park, right? It's like a western themed Renaissance fair, I guess, sort of.
Yeah, but for the Wild West kind of
thing.
Little amusement park where people are getting their picture taken in, the saloons, and people are dressing up, all that sort of fun stuff.
Westworld. Yeah, it's a little bit like Westworld.
So they go, and they need to sell another horse to make ends meet.
Like the good Westworld. Right?
And this is where we're starting to see some tension between him and the sister. And I really like this stuff.
Yeah.
Because of where I thought they were going with this story that they don't actually go. Anyway, so he goes to sell the horses because we find out that he's sold 10 horses already just to make ends meet and keep the business afloat. She doesn't know this already, which tells us that she's not very involved in I forget the name of their business, but anyway, she's not involved in this work at all.
Hayward Ranch or something like that?
Yeah. One of my favorite scenes in this first act is when he's going to go in to talk to the guy about selling another horse, because he wants to talk to him about the possibility of buying the horses back from him when he has the money.
Oh,
right?
yeah. So he goes in to talk to Steve Yuen, who runs the Pioneer Village.
Yes.
And they have some conflict on the way in, M and...
Yes. Because, he tells her to wait outside, and she's like, why? And he's like, because I'm trying to do some business right now, and you're a liability. And she's like, what the fuck do you mean? And he's like, you got to stop selling your side shit. This is the main... If you're going to promote shit, why don't you promote the business? Don't come in here being like, oh, I write and direct, I do all this, I do yada, yada, yada. Like, why don't you promote the business? And she's like, side shit. That's my main shit. This is my side shit. And so like, ooh, now we got some tension here. Like
Yeah.
clearly the family business is important to him. It's not to her, and there's some tension there. And I'm like, ooh, this is good character stuff. I
Mm-hmm.
like where this is going. I sense some character arcs happening. I can see them building.
A nice
Right?
relief after past few outings to the cinema.
Oh yeah, no, yeah. So yeah, at this point in the movie, I'm pretty into it, especially because like you said, we've had a lot of shit recently. And so he goes in, he talks to what's his name, Steve. What's the
Steve
actor's name?
Yuen.
Yes. What's his character's name? I'm so bad with character names.
Oh damn! I don't.
Anyway,
It
the
was
guy that
Jupiter's
runs
land. Jupiter's claim is the thing, so I'm going to
Jupiter's
call him
Claim
Jupiter.
is the name of this pioneer
Pioneer
amusement
Village.
park,
Yeah.
and it's run by Steve Yuen, and he is, we find out, is a child star, like who was famous in a series of movies where he was like a little kid sheriff kind of character.
Okay, his name
You
is
know,
Ricky Jupe Park. So Ricky Park,
right?
aka
Ricky
Jupe
Park.
or Jupiter.
So he's a
Cool.
child star, right? And while OJ is trying to talk to him, saying like, "Hey man, I got another horse for you," and he's like, "Same deal, I'll give you 11.5 for him." And he's like, "Yeah, with the possibility of being able to buy him back, right?" And Steve Yuen was like, "Yeah, sure." And I'm like, "Ooh,
Yeah.
that's good too." We will come to find out that he hasn't really been planning on allowing OJ to buy them back. We'll talk about why a little bit later, but there's some tension there. We're planting some seeds, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because OJ doesn't want to have to sell these horses. He wants to be able to buy them back. He wants to save the business, but he's just doing what he can at this point. But while he's trying to have this business conversation, right,
She's
M,
distracted by all the paraphernalia from
from his
Ricky's child star career that he's got decorating his office.
Yes,
and so
it's annoying. It's annoying OJ that she keeps interrupting their conversation to be like, "Holy shit, were you the kid sheriff?" or whatever the name of the show was. And he's clearly very excited about being able to talk about all this stuff.
Well, he's excited about the chance to get that deflection. He doesn't have to answer the question about when can I buy my horses back. He's just like, oh yeah, let's talk about this.
That's a good point. This eventually leads to a secret room that he has where he shows some specific memorabilia from a short-lived but infamous sitcom that he was on in the 90s called Gordy's Home. And Gordy's Home was it's a fictional sitcom, obviously, but it comes from the very real 90s, I guess 90s is when it happened, obsession that Hollywood had with chimpanzees, where they put chimpanzees in everything. You can find all these movies where it's like a buddy cop relationship between a guy like Tom Hanks and either a dog or a chimpanzee. It's one of those sort of things.
Yeah.
So there's a 90s sitcom, which is what we saw a little bit of from the beginning of this movie. And he talks about how, it was a really popular sitcom, and obviously things went south when, at one point, one of the chimpanzees playing Gordy snapped and caused a ruckus. He killed a bunch of people. he beat the fuck out of several of these actors in the sitcom, and it was very, very traumatic. But what's really interesting about that, and what I think the movie does pretty well, is sort of set up that Ricky Park has a sort of perverted sense of like what people want to know about it. Like he is sort of accepted that this is a spectacle. This is something people are always asking him about this. He has all this memorabilia. Clearly this was something that was very traumatic for him, but he's always putting a pleasant face on it when he's telling the story because he wants to give people what they want.
Yeah.
And I actually really like this because it sort of sets him up as a child star character who some real fucked up shit happened to, and he now has a sort of perverted sense of like, I don't know, like, of like that tragedy about how it's something people are obsessed with,
Yeah,
There's
yeah.
there's something really
I
interesting
really
there that
liked
because
that
go ahead.
particular. I really liked any scene with him in it. I thought was very good because the character he's bringing out is just really interesting. The way that he
Oh yeah.
manipulates the situation to get her in there and show her all the paraphernalia and tell her the
Hmm.
story. And then when she asks the question and he kind of sits there and thinks about it and then says that it's just like the SNL skit. And then he talks about how good the SNL skit is rather
Yeah.
than the
How
actual
traumatic it
event.
was for him. Yeah.
Yeah, and what he saw, he talks about how it's pretty much just like that. Have you ever seen it? And he goes into detail on the actor. This guy was playing this, and this guy was the chimp,
Hmm.
and
Oh,
every
and Chris
time,
Kattan, oh, he's so funny, man.
yeah, he's
He's
hilarious.
hyping up this skit instead of actually talking about his very personal traumatic experience. He's putting a more pleasant face on it. And the editing does something very interesting here, where it cuts very briefly to him as a child hiding under a table during the rampage. And so we find out that opening shot from the beginning of the movie was actually his POV. So he saw all this stuff very up close and personal. And we immediately cut back to the conversation, and he's still putting a happy face on it. Like
Yeah,
he has a sort of perverted sense of what people want to know about this event, when in reality people would be very interested in knowing, what it was like for him. But he thinks people are obsessed with it. I gotta make it a show. I gotta, this is a spectacle, and I gotta give people a happy way of thinking about it. So he doesn't talk about how tragic and terrifying it was for him. He talks about the SNL skit they made about it, and how great Chris Kattan was in it as Gordy the monkey.
yeah, I loved it.
Very interesting.
It's
Yeah.
it's a really good choice. It was great, and so I don't remember what happens when they leave though. What happens after that?
Um. Oh God, I don't remember what immediately happens, because this is when we start getting
Jamie, you
into,
saw it
like,
twice.
I know I did. Okay, so I think they just leave and they go home. Yeah, they get back to the. They get
Yeah,
back
this is
to
when
the
they get back
ranch.
to the ranch and she wants to go through the liquor cabinet.
Yeah, they get back to the ranch. Oh, and this is another good bit of character work, where they get back to the ranch, and she's like, "Oh, so what are you gonna do tonight?" She was originally gonna leave, but maybe she'll stay the night. And he's like, "I don't know, I got a lot of work to do." It's like, "You want to do some work?" And she's like, "No." It's
Yeah.
like, okay, she doesn't want to do work or get involved in this business at all. She's kind of lazy. This will become important later, or it won't. We'll find out.
Maybe.
But she's pretty lazy. She just wants to dick around, right? So she's like, "Hey, why don't we raid Pop's liquor cabinet?"
Well, and I think I want to like they have a very tense conversation before she finally like shouts out, that she wants to raid the liquor cabinet because
Yeah.
he's walking away. She's talking about what like I don't want to do the work, and he's just like, well, I got shit's got to get done, and so he's she stops and she kind of starts again, and then just goes, I guess you don't want to check out his liquor cabinet, and then he kind of stops and he turns around and he says something like, I got that Hollyweed too. And so then, like, they get that little break in the tension. They kind of, they slacken up a little bit. They go inside, and she starts drinking and listening to music. And I liked that a lot. I liked the little push and pull there between them that they had going on. It was very well
the push and
performed.
pull they have in. So this is another example, right, where we're getting a lot of good character stuff between them, because they start drinking and talking, and she starts reminiscing about how when she was a kid there was a horse that was supposed to be hers, right? She's like, that was
Yeah.
supposed to be my horse, but Dad ended up using it on some movie instead. It didn't end up getting to be her horse. Now, whether that's entitlement on her part or like her dad not caring for her, she definitely treats it as like her dad didn't like cared more about the business than her, you know.
Yeah.
And he's like, you know what? I mean, like, that's the business or whatever. There's a little bit of tension there. We get a little clue as to why she doesn't necessarily have much involvement in the family business, right?
Yeah.
There's some tension between her and her dad, and OJ sort of implies that it's because they're very similar. They're both like kind of stubborn and hard-headed, you know? And
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, this is good. I like this. And then one of my favorite little bits of acting and character building from him is he talks about how important it is for him to save the business. Like, it's got to be done. Like, that's what's most important to him. This is where we find out that, like, that's OJ's top priority. Will he save the business, right? And the movie's sort of signposting this to be like, like the main goal is for him to save the business, right? That's what motivates any other potential goals, right?
Yeah.
And then she starts listening to some music. She's dancing, having a good time. He goes out to mind one of the horses. No, he sees that one of the horses is out.
She notices. She says, "Why is Ghost out in the corral?" And
Yeah, and so
so
yeah,
then
he goes out to check on the horse. She starts blasting music, and he's like, "Hey, turn that shit down," because he's worried about spooking the horses and all that sort of stuff.
yeah.
But she's just dancing, grooving, having a good time. And then the power goes out, and like many times in the movie, the power goes out, and some weird, spooky shit is going on.
Ooh.
And
Gets
do
very
we see?
quiet.
Yes. Is this when we see the UFO for the first time? Right. No, because, okay, so something happens and it spooks the horse. The horse runs away. And then she's like, where's he going? And so he goes all the way down to try to find the horse. He doesn't find the horse, but he does see all the way to Ricky Park's ranch next door. And he sees some lights on. He can't really tell what's happening over there. He hears voices over the megaphone, like he's putting on some show down there. And then
Yeah.
he sees a weird sort of dust whirlpool tornado sort of thing forming, and he kind of follows it, and there's some clouds. You can't quite see what it is, but eventually he sees something that looks very much like a UFO, like a spaceship, dart between the clouds, right?
Yeah.
And he hears some weird noises that sound like the screeching, like the inhuman sort of terrifying screeches of a horse. And
Yeah,
so,
and it sounds similar to what he heard when his dad was killed by the nickel. Because
yes.
there is a screechy noise when his dad is killed by the nickel. I don't know. Remember if we went over this. When his dad is killed by the nickel, his cell phone goes dead. He hears some screaming, otherworldly screams.
I think he says he sort of jumps. He makes an assumption here that I don't quite understand. He seems to already jump to something
horse made that
happened
noise,
to
yeah.
Ghost. Yeah, and he's like, I've never heard a horse make that noise before. He doesn't find the horse, but he just sort of assumes it disappears. We never really get any confirmation that he continued to look for the horse. It's kind of weird.
Yeah,
But
I forgot about that. But yeah, you're right.
It's strange. He comes back and he tells her that he saw something. Like, I don't know what it was, but it was kind of freaky. And she's like, what was it? And he's like, what did it look like? He's like, I don't know. He doesn't quite want to say it, but he's like, it moved really fast. It was too fast to be a ship. And so it's sort of
Too fast
becoming,
to be a plane, I think is what he said.
yeah, right. Too fast to be a plane. And she's starting to piece together that he saw a UFO or something.
Yeah.
Right? And then the next thing we see is them at a Best Buy kind of store, and she's telling him that oh, I've looked online and I found that if people if you get video evidence of UFOs, you can sell them to some of these websites and you can make a ton of money. And he's like, really? So now we've skipped ahead a little bit, but we haven't missed much. We skipped ahead and they're already thinking, okay, so if what you saw was a UFO, maybe we can capture it on video and we can make a bunch of money doing that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay. So, and that's her idea from the looks of it.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah, because she talks about all the blogs that she reads, and she's the one who took them to the Fries.
Yeah. It's one of the few good ideas she has. Otherwise, she's pretty useless in the rest of the movie. but we'll get to that. So they go into the store, and she's like, but I'm thinking, fuck these niche UFO websites. I bet you if we could get really good footage And like, we could go bigger than that. We could make more money and make more of an impact, right? And he's
Yeah.
like, what, Oprah? And she's like, yeah, like Oprah or some shit, you know? And then they're having a little back and forth about it. There's some good stuff there. By the way, this is what I would call the beginning of the second act, right? So what do we, like, on, before we go too much further, I want to establish what we've established so far, because I think it'll be important as to what does and doesn't get resolved and what does and doesn't get paid off. So what have we established? Well, we've established that they run a horse, or that he primarily runs a horse, in the absence of his father, runs a horse training business for the movies. They're falling on hard times, and he has to sell some horses, but he's hoping to get them back. Meanwhile, his sister isn't really involved in the family business, doesn't have a strong emotional connection to it, doesn't really care.
Is busy trying to break away from it.
Yeah, she's trying to break away,
treats
her own
it like
thing.
A side hustle, and you know, does her own thing on the side.
But it's much more important to him, right?
And then they have a neighbor who is buying their horses for his little family-friendly Pioneer Village amusement park.
Yes.
And he used to be a child star, and in a show where a chimpanzee attacked and killed a bunch of people, and he survived by hiding under a table. And he has been holding on to this for trauma for quite some time, and is sort of burying it. Like he's
also another nice little detail is that when when OJ tells M that he thinks he saw what might have been a UFO, he says it in the context of, there's been some weird shit happening here. I never quite believed the story that, you know, that stuff that fell from the sky and killed Dad just fell from like a private plane. Yeah. Because that's the conventional story that they've come to believe, or at least that's what they were told, is that, I don't know, a plane flying overhead must have like...
Yeah, some shit must have fallen off a plane.
Yeah.
And,
yeah. And he's like, I never really believed that, because he's experienced some sort of spooky shit, right? And then he thinks he discovers a UFO, and now they think, oh, maybe if we can capture video of the UFO, that...
We can make enough money to buy the horses back and save the ranch.
Yes. Boom.
There.
Perfect little first act, right? I think it's a great little first act.
Yeah.
Weird, but it establishes a lot of interesting things. We have a clear goal, right? We want to save the family business, right?
Yeah, we have
a
clear
UFO
goal.
Thing is a means to that end, right?
Clear goal with good characters, interesting setup, and inciting incident. We are going very strong, and then we go to an electronics store to buy electronic cameras to take pictures of a thing that shuts off electricity.
Right. Yeah. So we're jumping straight into the second act, where we're taking actions towards the goal, right? We're doing shit. So they go to the store, they buy a bunch of security cameras to put up around the place, and they meet Angel, who works at this Best Buy like store, and he's like,
he's a total asshole.
He is a total asshole. Yeah, he straight out of the gate has asshole energy. It's kind of funny. And he's like, hey, do you want some help from an employee installing all this stuff? And they're like, nope. And he's like,
okay. He's very passive aggressive about it. He kind of like sneakily asks the question, like, so do you want help setting it up?
Yeah.
And they go, nope. And he goes, oh, okay, well, you know.
And he's like, what? Is it a hard install? And he's like, yeah, you guys can't figure it out.
You won't be able to figure it out.
He's a total douchebag about it, but he's like, look, you bought a lot of high-end stuff. You'll want someone to help install it, all right?
Yes.
And so they bring him back to the ranch. They don't want to tell him what they're doing, right? They don't want to rope him into it. He's asking a bunch of questions, but they're putting up the security cameras different places around the ranch. And while they're looking at it on a laptop, OJ's like keeps indicating to him he wants to point the cameras higher. And then, like, eventually they're as high as they can go, and they're pointed directly into the sky. And this guy's like, that's weird. You know, he's giving them...
he kind of...
pretty suspect.
He's kind of on to their game, I think. I would even go as far as to say. Like, right here.
Pretty early on, actually, you know, which is... It works in a sort of comedy where he just straight away is like, you guys trying to capture, like, UFOs? But he doesn't ask it straight away. He sets it all up for them, and he's like, hey, you guys gonna tell me what it's for? And they're like, hell no. He's like, all right, fuck you guys. And then he's like, hey, just so you know, I can monitor it remotely if you want. And he's like, no, thank you. Don't do that. Okay. He starts to walk away. And it's like one of my favorite little jokes. He's like, one last thing. You'll be getting a call from my supervisor asking how I did. And they're like, 5 stars, Angel, 5 stars.
Yeah,
So,
I
don't
did
know.
like that. Yeah, I thought that.
Yeah, it's a good little, there's some funny stuff, you know.
I've already begun to like this guy a little bit. I like this new character.
I mean, he's
who's
a
coming in.
douchebag, but he's kind of funny.
He's a
you know?
charming douchebag. He's like,
Yes.
he's
Yeah.
a weirdo, but I like him.
Exactly. And then it's the first night, and right? I don't think anything else happens. I think it's the
remember.
first. I think it's the first.
You're the
night,
one who
right?
saw it twice. I don't know. I'm counting on you to guide me through here, dude.
I don't remember every order of every scene. All right, but okay.
Fair enough.
So then, it's the first
The
night,
editing is one.
right? And they got the cameras set up. They're watching the skies, you know, and then two things happen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Two things happen that first night.
Oh, did they get the decoy before they do this?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. That's important.
Yeah.
Okay. So before Angel leaves, he's setting up the cameras. M decides, she's like, "Hey, I'm gonna go. Like, while you handle this shit, I'm gonna go pick up something real quick." And he's like, "What are you gonna go get?" And he's like, "Don't worry about it." And so she comes back, and she has a decoy, which is like a plastic horse, with,
Life-size
like,
plastic horse.
Yeah.
Up, like rearing up, and
Yeah.
then there's a big, like party flag or like an advertising flag rope, just kind of
Yeah.
wrapped around it.
like you'd find at a car dealership.
Yeah.
And this is going to be their decoy. Now, the only thing that annoys me about this is that they sort of jump to the conclusion that their horse is definitely gone and maybe it was stolen by aliens. Like we haven't bothered to look for the horse during the daytime. The horse is just gone. And
Yeah,
we
they
don't-
haven't.
we
They
don't-
haven't said anything about it. Yeah.
We don't give a fuck about that horse anymore. We're moving on. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I guess we just assumed that aliens kidnapped that horse, and we're moving on. Okay, so she wants to get a decoy because she thinks that's what the aliens are after. They keep stealing the horses. It's kind of a leap. It's kind of a logical leap, but fine. But then we see Stephen. Sorry, I'm going to call him his actual name, Ricky Park, the guy next door, the child star guy. He comes by the ranch and he's like, "Hey, how's it going?" It's like, "Oh, that's a nice plastic horse you got there. It looks a lot like the ones we have." And
they kind of give each other a look for a little bit, and
Yeah.
then as he starts to ask, "Where did you?" and she just instantly hits him with the, "Where did you get yours?"
Yeah.
And
he's
it's
like, "I don't know. My wife must have picked him up." And like, so there's like he's a little suspect, right? But he's like, "Hey, you should come to this new show I got going on, right? I got this great family show. You guys should come by." He has flyers or whatever.
yeah, he
And
holds
they're
up a
like,
little
"Okay,
pamphlet or something.
yeah, maybe." Anyway, so then he leaves. That's the end of that scene, basically.
He gives him a little thumbs up.
Yeah.
I did like that scene though. I thought that was funny.
Yeah. No, yeah, there's some good little comedic beats, right? So anyway, Angel leaves. He has his whole ending scene, and then it's that night, right? And they're watching the cameras. They're trying to figure out what's, they're watching the decoy they have. They're watching the security cameras, and then I think is this the night where
There's a praying mantis on the camera, right?
Before we get to that, is this the same night where we see? Yes, it is. Okay, so before the praying mantis blocks one of the cameras, M or OJ notices that like there's a light on in one of the the ranch houses or the stables where all the horses are.
Oh yeah. This
Right.
is that. Yeah, this is that night. Okay, yeah.
Yes. So OJ goes down there. He walks into the big corral or the stable or whatever it is. And he goes over to this light that was supposed to be off that's running some sort of generator. It's making noise. He turns it off, and then as he's walking away, he gets maybe 50 feet away before it turns on again. And he's like, what the fuck? We're doing horror shit now. We got spooky music. He's like, oh my god, the light turned on again. What the fuck? He looks back over, and we see, very creepy, this like humanoid figure. It's kind of far away, so you can't make it out very well.
They're about the size of an Ewok.
Yeah, maybe a little bigger. Maybe a little bigger.
They got furry bodies. You can kind of tell they got furry bodies and these like big bulbous round heads that are kind of just like, and they're making this weird like predator clicking noise. And instantly he goes, nope, and backs away.
Okay. So, yeah, we see these weird, kind of creepy alien-looking things, and he's freaking out. He kind of starts to walk away, and then they kind of come after him. He tries to take video of one.
Well, he does a little bit, yeah. He pulls it, so he goes, nope, and he says the thing, and he backs up, and he pulls his phone. He says the thing, and he pulls his phone out to record, because they're following him up the hallway, and he's around a corner now. And so he's trying to record them as they come around the corner, and you get a nice little slow zoom in on the cell phone video as you're waiting for the thing to come around the corner, and then
another one appears behind him, and he goes and he punches it, right?
Yeah.
And then it like kind of falls. It was hanging upside down. Turns out it's little kids in like weird alien monkey costumes. Gotcha. Yeah, it wasn't actually aliens. It was the little kids, and they're Ricky Park's kids.
Yeah, and they say, don't mess with Jupiter's claim, because they know that they stole the decoy from them. And so they were just pulling a little old prank.
To get back at her for stealing the thing. Okay, so I have a lot of thoughts. First, let's talk about the thing. The Nope thing. Nope. Because the Nope meme is a pretty simple meme. Basic idea is, it probably comes from people making like sketches on like Mad TV and whatever else back in the day, where it's like, oh, black people in a horror movie situation would just be like, nope, I'm not going in there, and then they never get killed, right? Because they don't go into this spooky house. Like that's the basic meme, is that they're just like, nope, I'm not dealing with that shit, and they would leave. Haha, isn't it funny how black people are different like that? That's the basic idea, right? So what this movie tries to do sometimes is incorporate that little meme where he'll see something like this scene we're talking about now, where he sees what looks like a weird little alien, and he goes, nope, and he starts to walk away. But then he takes a video of it anyway, and then later in the movie, it's like if the Nope meme would be, they would want to leave this house and have nothing to do with it. But they take a very active role in trying to capture this thing on film. It doesn't fit the Nope meme, and using that meme, that joke, like 3 times, maybe 4 times in the whole movie isn't really enough to counteract all the other actions they're taking that go against that. What I'm trying to say is that Nope is a bad title for this movie. It doesn't fit this movie. The Nope meme doesn't really fit with the scenes that it's in, because they're not.
Yeah, what? I agree with you on that. I don't think this is I think this is not the right title to have used for what he ended up doing with this movie.
Yeah. This is the whole Nope meme doesn't fit this movie. They're not like, because this movie, you could imagine based on the title that this movie might be like, these black protagonists find themselves in these like weird horror situations.
Aliens,
yeah, and they're just like, nope, I ain't fucking with that shit. I'm not going anywhere near that. And they just try to leave or something. And then the horror has to like follow them somehow. There's something you could do with the meme. And like they make 3 or 4 jokes where they try to have them go, nope, I ain't fucking with that. But then the whole plot is about them fucking with that. It doesn't work. It's not a good title for this movie.
Yeah.
It's a simple, punchy title, which is probably why he likes it, after Get Out and Us, but it doesn't fit. It's not a good title.
Fair.
And like those jokes where he's like, nope, are funny on their own, but then he immediately does the opposite. Like it doesn't It's like when something makes a joke in a movie, right? And it kind of breaks the character for a moment because they're like, oh, wouldn't it be funny if this happened? But it doesn't actually fit with who the character has been established to be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. There was one of them that I liked, but I'll save that for when we get to it.
Yeah. Nope. It's not a good title for this movie. It doesn't fit. I don't like it.
I agree with that actually. Like especially given like exactly how active they get later on, and the plan that they end up executing. Like a
it
very
doesn't.
Stranger Thingsy type.
And it's a good
Involved.
plan, and
Yeah.
I like that plot, but it just doesn't fit the Nope
No.
joke. It doesn't work. Okay, so we'll get more of those as we go. But another thing I want to talk about with this scene is the fact that it's like more or less definitively established that M stole that decoy horse, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it's a weird thing that they're doing with her. In the first act, they're like, okay, she's not really interested in this business. She doesn't want to do any hard work. She's kind of lazy. She's just trying to do her own Hollywood dream kind of thing. But then she's also stealing this decoy horse from the neighbor. Like, I don't know, there was no other way of getting it. Like, she just jumps to stealing shit, and this is something she'll do later. And I'm like, I don't know if I'm supposed to like this character very, very much. She's kind of...
Yeah, I don't. So the thing is, I don't think it's out of. It doesn't seem necessarily out of character, but
Yeah.
it is sort of convenient that like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess she's just like also is fine with doing those kinds of things.
Yeah, she's very quick to stealing shit from other people, and that's about the only way that she's useful to the plot for quite a while. Like, for the whole middle of this movie, the only extent to which she's actually useful is that she steals shit from people. And I'm like, I don't know if I like this person. I don't like this character very much. But I'm like, hey, maybe, we've established some of her character flaws. Maybe the movie will go some way to redeem her. It doesn't. So another thing I want to talk about with this scene is the alien fake out. I did not like that at all. This is one of the first scenes in the movie where I'm like, oh, that was fucking stupid. I don't like that they did we did this whole scene, because it's a long little sequence that it's like, just kidding. It's not actually aliens, it's just little kids that will never really...
Yeah, okay, so they don't really do much, although I'm almost like a little glad that they don't do all that much, considering the ultimate fates of our friends in the chimp costumes. But the thing is, I guess I can wait until we get to the end point. But I do kind of like what the costumes do for one of the characters.
Yes. No, I agree with that. We'll get to that part when we talk about the show.
I didn't have like as visceral of a reaction to this fake out as being like I hated it. I was just kind of like, it's obviously
lame.
it's obviously fake.
It's even more lame on a rewatch because I'm viewing it in the context of all the things the movie does to waste my time, and I don't like the fake out. And I guess what annoys me is I was like, oh shit, I didn't see that coming. I didn't realize we were already gonna get like the aliens on the ground fucking with shit. And I was excited for that. I'm just reminded that we have a little alien dancing in the background. I was excited for like the little green men, like proper little green men, and I was like, oh, what are we gonna or they don't have to be exactly the same sort of alien design that we're used to, but I was excited to see what was going to happen. I guess I really liked it as a tense scene. It was well constructed, and so I was annoyed when it was just fake, and it's like, just kidding, fake out.
I wasn't annoyed. Maybe I would be on the second watch, but I wasn't annoyed the first time. I was just kind of like, oh, okay. Like, I guess we're not doing that yet. Fine.
So anyway, after that, M is watching the cameras, and she gets her own little jump scare, another little fake out. Ooh, excuse me. She gets another little fake. That one caught me off guard. She gets her own little fake out jump scare when a bug, a praying mantis, lands in front of one of the cameras and kind of covers up the view, right? She's like, she thinks it's an alien at first, but it's a bug. Oh, got you again. And so then she gets a call, and it's Angel from the hardware store, and he's like, just so you know, there's a bug on your camera, and also camera B's down. And so it's like, are you watching our cameras? I specifically told you not to do that. But then she goes to try and fix the cameras, right?
Yeah.
And I think there's a horse loose as well for this little sequence.
Clover, Clover's loose because the kids were fucking around in her pen.
Right. Okay, so while OJ is trying to get Clover back into the pen, M is on the roof of the house she can't quite reach the camera where the praying mantis is, but she's trying to like throw Sour Patch Kids or something at it.
Yeah, she's
trying to knock it off the camera, something weird like that.
Yeah.
And then once again the horse gets spooked and runs away, right? And I think there's some more power outages that happen at this point where like
the power goes down because that's how the bug falls off the camera, right?
No, the bug just flies away at the very end.
Oh, okay.
God, I'm trying to remember the details of like what we see here. I'm trying to remember what the alien actually does, but
this is when it takes the decoy.
Right. So we see the ship more clearly this time, and it manages to suck up the decoy, right? And then it flies away. But we don't get it on camera because
there was a praying mantis on the lens.
There was a praying mantis on the camera, but there's another camera that was closer to it that is knocked out because the ship knocks out the electricity.
Which I guess it's. So I did get a little annoyed by this when I was watching it because I was like, okay, like you kind of knew that it knocked out electricity. Doesn't he say the same thing to Angel in the shop when he's talking to him about the cameras? He goes,
when he's talking about the cameras, he's talking about how it knocked out cell phones too. And Angel's being a smug little prick. He's like, well, blackouts wouldn't cause your phones to turn off, you idiot. But
he's like, it's probably just your Wi-Fi. Okay.
Yeah. So they're aware that that it knocks the electricity out, and then they're kind of surprised when the security cameras get turned off when the alien ship appears.
It was like, how did you not expect that to happen? It's a fucking electric camera.
Yeah, it's kind of a dumb move on their part. But so it steals the decoy horse, the alien ship that is. And then eventually the praying mantis flies away. They didn't get it on camera. Oh no. I guess that was their first failed attempt, right?
Yeah, right? Yes.
Yes. Now remind me what happens immediately after that, because things get weird really quickly.
I think is the next bit the second chimpanzee part?
That happens at some point. It's really
bizarre.
No,
because we have to no, that doesn't happen yet. Because we have to get to the point where Angel comes back over. Oh, does she call the cinematographer at this point?
I think I think we cut to the next morning, and then Angel comes over. And he's just staring. Right, he's staring at the sky, and they're like, "Hey, man, that wasn't cool. You can't be spying on our shit like that." And he's like, "Do you see that shit?" And he points up to the sky. They look at the video footage, and when you look at the video footage, it becomes obvious that there's a cloud in the sky that hasn't moved over the course of however many days since they've had the camera. It doesn't move. All the other clouds move. This one stays still. And they're like, holy fuck.
Dead still. Also, there's a comment in the chat about how they did point. I think he's right. They point the two cameras at each other in case one goes down. So the one went down, and then the other one was the praying mantis.
Right.
So okay.
Yeah. So the other one that was a little further away from the ship.
Yeah. So they did cover or try to cover for the power outage thing. So that makes sense. I guess.
That was their attempt. It's something. So they discover that this cloud hasn't moved at all, and the cloud's just been sitting there the whole time. And so they think the alien ship must be hiding in that cloud. And I'm like, okay, so this whatever this alien UFO thing is, clearly it can generate a cloud around it.
Yeah, a
Doesn't
very
move.
realistic looking cloud. Very vapor looking cloud. I think it is important to note. Looks very much like a cloud.
Yeah, so apparently the ship just has the power to do that. Um, and
Cloaking
so
device
now,
of some kind, you figure.
hmm
You know.
yeah, I'm like, okay, that's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Do they? I think they call the cinematographer man now, right?
Yeah, I think this
Uh,
is when they do it, and she talks about how she blows a bunch of smoke up his ass, and
Yeah. So the cinematographer from the TV commercial that they worked on at the very beginning of the movie, they try to call him. They get his number from the call sheet or something.
yeah,
Even though,
she calls him. He asks how she got the number, and she says, "Oh, I got it from the call sheet." And he gives one of those movie.
Groans, yeah.
Oh God.
And so they're like, "Hey, we have a gig for you. Probably doesn't pay good as most of your gigs, but I heard that you can make the impossible possible, and so, we got the opportunity of a lifetime." And he's like, "What is it?" And she goes, "It's reality." And he's like, "Oh, fuck, reality." And OJ's like, "Say documentary, say documentary." She's like, "Documentary." He's like, "Okay, that's better." And I'm like, that's a nice little joke. But he doesn't agree to come on board.
No, he's not quite in. He's busy editing footage or going over
I don't
footage.
even know what the fuck he's doing. Some weird old archival footage.
Yeah, he's going over like old footage of different animals killing each other. No, he's basically scrolling "Nature is Brutal" on Instagram.
So he decides not to help them out. What's the next thing that happened? Because I know we at some point soon here we're gonna cut away to do some Gordy shit. And
It's I think
and I'll,
the only thing I think the thing that happens next is they're looking at the cloud. Daniel
uh-huh.
Kaluuya is basically kind of giving it this awe-inspired grin. He's like really interested in it. He's just like, I might have been looking at that same cloud for the past 6 months, and I would never have known, right? Like, and he's got
Yeah.
this like interested, fascinated smile on his face, just staring at it. And one of them says something about the ship, and he says, "What if it's not a ship?" And I think that's when
Oh,
it cuts away, right? To Gordy.
do we do that already?
I
Anyway,
think that happens
I
already.
I'm a little fuzzy on some of the order that these things happen, but yes, he makes a very big assumption that this is not a ship, that this is not an alien. It looks like a flying saucer. It looks pretty cut and dried flying saucer kind of alien ship, but he comes to believe that this is actually an organism, like this is one animal, and that it's like hunting
Like
or
we
something.
don't we don't know exactly that. Uh, we don't know exactly that yet, but I think he just says like, "What if it's not a ship?" And then it cuts to. Is that when it cuts to the title card? I see that
It
comment
might
in the
be.
chat. I think
They're
that's what
yeah.
it is.
Let's talk about the title cards. I don't think they add anything at all, and I don't like them.
Yeah, I don't know what they. I really don't know what purpose they serve. I have
Yeah,
no
yeah.
idea.
There's these title cards, and the title cards are named after the different horses or Gordy, and like they just break up the movie. But I don't know.
They don't break it
It's
into any discernible. Like they don't happen at any discernible act break
no. They're
or
just like I don't know. It
like what
feels
you
a
would think
little
would be a
pretentious to
chapter
me.
break.
Feels a little pretentious to me. I'm not gonna lie. But anyway, let's talk about what they do with Gordy, because then they cut to a title card that says Gordy, and then all of a sudden we're back in the 90s Gordy's Home sitcom mayhem, and we see a very, very long sequence of
Yeah.
Gordy attacking all these people. We see that mayhem again, but in more detail this time, and it fucking drags on. It's oh my god, it
Okay.
goes on for fucking forever.
So yes, but I was. This is one of those things where it's like it just kind of got me. Like I was like, yeah, it. I
Even though it tells you absolutely nothing new for like the first 5 minutes
I
of going back.
I'm
We go
really
back to this
really
scene,
dude. Chimpanzees
and we
are
don't learn
fucking
anything
freaky.
new.
If you've
We don't
seen how
learn
strong those
anything
things
new.
are, yeah, I know we don't, but it's freaky. It freaked me out. It got me. I was sitting there. I was like, I don't want to get beat to death by a chimpanzee.
You're wrong to like it.
I
You're
didn't-
wrong to be affected by it. It's such a waste of time. We don't learn anything new. It's just like the same opening sequence, but longer. There's more on both sides of it. Like we get more leading up to it, and then all we learn is that the scene they're filming the episode, and then balloons pop, and that's what sets Gordy off. Okay, I didn't fucking really need to know that. It doesn't really change anything. We see him kill a bunch of people, or like we see the mayhem. We're like the camera's kind of moving around without showing like all the brutality. But then eventually we come to the same fucking shot we already saw in the beginning, and it's really long again. And then Gordy turns and looks at the camera, and we see little Ricky Park hiding under the table, right? And then this is the only thing that's especially new that we've learned in this whole Gordy round 2 sequence. He comes up and he goes to like fist bump little Ricky Park under the table because they had a little trademark fist bump for the show or something.
Yeah,
he goes to fist bump him, and right as Ricky's about to fist bump Gordy, the chimpanzee finally gets shot. I don't know where the fuck the animal wranglers have been for this whole fucking thing. Nowhere to be seen, apparently. But they finally show up and shoot Gordy, and they kill Gordy, and
right
it's all
in front
very
of
dramatic.
Yeah,
right in front of little Ricky Park. At which point we immediately cut out to all grown up Ricky Park, and he's in his little office.
He's in his office. He's in his costume, and he's given this like stare off into the distance, like he's
1,000-mile stare.
Like he's about like he's finally arrived. He's like it's almost like he's looking out over like somebody who climbs Mount Everest. I would imagine it's like him standing on top of a mountain. He's doing a great job. I just want to point out Steven Yeun is doing a really great job, and
I agree.
I want to say to the guy in chat who said that he also liked the long sounds of the chimp beating people. I actually did like that too.
Wrong.
I liked it because we sat with Randy on a lot of it, and we got to feel like that terror with him, but then we get to see the little scene with him doing the fist bump, and we know that he kind of we get from all of this that he still kind of believes that like Gordy was a good guy at heart, like not just a wild animal, that they had a connection and that they were like friends and buddies, because he reaches out for the bump, and that he saw that like I don't know. I thought it was good for Steve Yeun's or for Ricky's characterization,
yes.
and
you know
it
what's funny is that we don't need like 8 minutes of it. We can do that in like 30 seconds, or like a little longer if you just want to have the mood play out a little longer, because everything they do that adds to his character, like watching this happen, can be accomplished in like 30 seconds because we already saw this.
We didn't see all the beating and everything. We just saw all the bodies and the chimp.
Yeah, but we don't need to see all the beating and shit.
Yeah, but that's the shit that's gonna scare. That's the shit that's gonna scare me. Is like seeing the chimp beat people.
That was all implied already. All that. Like,
I know it was implied, but like getting the actual sensation of seeing it or of hearing it is.
But it's not even. It's such an obviously fake chimp too. So it's just like, who gives a shit?
Well, okay, yeah, but still, like, there's some kind. Like, I know it's fake. I know it doesn't look real, but it's just like there's that thing that is like, I know that they could do that, and it freaks me out when I think about it, and even worse so when I see it, even if it is fake.
Okay. It goes on for too long.
Okay, fair.
That has to be said. It goes on for so fucking long. And this is all time that we're not pushing the story forward. We're just setting up...
It's mostly just a character thing for him, yeah.
A little bit more character detail for him. We don't learn anything especially new about his character. We just get a little bit more meat on those bones. And it's like, fine. Okay. You know what really annoys me about this? Is that Steven Yeun is about to leave the movie for good. And it's like, why the fuck did you waste all that time? because we cut back to him and he's preparing to do his new show, right? He's got that 1,000-yard stare, and his wife kind of gives him, I don't know, a little,
Oh,
not a pep talk.
I just want
gives
to,
him,
yeah. She gives him the little pep talk, or like she kind of gives him a hug or whatever, and then he gets into the he's about to start. He goes, "What if I told you?" And then it just cuts immediately, and I was like, "That okay." Like that's an interesting editing choice. And then it goes to him doing the show, and we get a little bit of preamble, and then he goes into the speech of like the "What if I told you" thing. I was like, "Oh, okay, hey, that's not too bad."
all that stuff is fine. All that stuff is good. I just want to point out, it is a horror movie. You need the gore. Absolutely, no, you fucking don't.
You don't need the gore.
No, you
but
don't.
I did
need
find
it.
that
I mean,
part particularly
I would
effective for
make an argument
me.
that it's like, but I mean, you don't really even get a whole lot more gore anyway. It's still sort of implied off camera. We're doing the same thing again and for longer this time. That's what we're doing. It's not. This is not the selling point of the movie. This like the gore with the Gordy gore is not the selling point of the movie. It's not what gets asses in seats. It's we're just dwelling on this for so long, all for the sake of adding just slightly more detail to his character right before he's about to die. Because next thing we see him is he's giving his little speech. He's doing his new show in front of his audience of people, right?
Yes,
And
he's doing that, and he's got Lucky, the horse that he just purchased from OJ.
Yes.
He's got that in the cage, and he's doing a
sort
whole
of like a glass box.
yeah.
Sort of
It's
on
what
display.
It's a cage. It's a cage. It's pretty
Okay,
much
yeah,
a cage.
yeah.
So
And then he's like, he's a good showman, right? He's like, he's thanking the crew and everyone for coming out. You know, he's like, what if I told you you'd leave here in the next hour that you'd be a changed person, right? So like, I'm gonna show you something spectacular. He's doing
Yeah.
his whole showman thing, and he's good at it, right?
And this is
He's
where he
talent.
comes. Yeah, this is where he comes out with like he says, like I want to thank my wife and my kids, and his kids are in these little costumes, those little alien costumes, and you see them in the light, and you can tell that they look a lot more like chimpanzee bodies than
Yeah.
anything else, and that they've
I'm
got
like, that's an interesting detail.
yeah, it's like
He did a
he
good job on
designed
that one.
these costumes to look like chimpanzees because that interaction that he had with Gordy as a kid, where he went on a rampage but still remembered him, has informed his like relationship with these aliens that he thinks he has. Like he feels the same connection to the aliens that he did to the chimpanzee in that moment, and I really like that detail. I thought that was some really clever design and really good writing. Like I for
agree.
his character in particular, I
Yes.
thought that was great.
And it sets up how he feels about these aliens, right? And so the show, as you probably already guessed, or if you saw the movie, the show is that he's going to show all these fine folks the alien that he's discovered. This alien ship is going to come down, and he's got the horse there for bait that he's basically going to feed the horse, and it's going to be like, look,
Yeah, well, he
alien.
doesn't think that he doesn't know that it's feeding at this moment. He thinks that they are a civilization called the Watchers, who are there to study organisms of Earth, and so he's been giving them horses that he buys from the ranch.
Yeah, he's been like offering horses to them, and then they come and they suck up the horse into their ship, and he thinks he has this relationship with them. He thinks that that this is something he can control or tame and use as a spectacle to put on a show for people, right?
Yeah,
and all this stuff is well informed by his backstory as a child star and as the survivor of this weird spectacle regarding Gordy that everyone is obsessed with, this infamous story. All that stuff, really, really good. So they
he gets started on the show. Oh, and he thanks the child co-star who was with him, the woman who who you've seen in the trailers, who looks. I thought she was a burn victim at first, but she's a chimpanzee attack victim, and I can't believe I didn't put two and two together on that, because like that is a pretty gruesome and accurate rendition of what somebody who gets attacked by a chimpanzee.
Yeah, she's clearly had to have some sort of like facial reconstruction surgery just to still be alive. She looks really bad. Is the point? She's there in the audience as well, and he kind of thanks her. And then he's like, oh, but before we get into the main event, like my kids are gonna sing a little song. But then we hear the noise of the ship, the like weird groan noise that the alien UFO makes, and he's like, "Oh,
He turns around
they're
and the cloud is there. He turns around and he sees the cloud, like the sits still.
well." We hear the noise too, yeah.
He wouldn't know.
And he's
Yeah,
like,
after he hears the noise, he turns around and sees the cloud, and he goes, "Oh, well, they're early."
like we're ready for him. So like clearly he was expecting them to come a little bit later in the show, but like he's like, okay, we can make it work. What it's sort of implying is that he doesn't really have control of this situation, right?
Yeah, he's a little
Because
thrown.
he's a little thrown, but he tries to let the horse run out so that the alien can grab the horse, but the horse basically goes, nope.
The horse just stays in its
Yeah.
little box and doesn't move, and he's like clicking at it and trying to get it to go out, and so then it starts to swoop in low over them, and like you see the winds start flying every way, and everybody in the park looks up at this thing as like the everything starts flying, and then I think it cuts to black, right? And then the next shot is that one that's like practically just a black screen with a bunch of little silhouettes of people flying up. I loved that shot. I thought that looked great. Like I really thought that looked cool.
I Yes, yes. So basically, the alien sucks up all the people in the audience, uh, presumably to their, presumably to their deaths.
Well, I mean, it kind of shows you what happened because like it's they all fly up into the thing and you kind of hear like the screams or whatever, and then that's when we get this really. This is probably my favorite scene in the movie. Was just like they're being pulled up through this like pink and red and like fleshy thing that's just kind of like dripping goo on them and everything, and they're like going
the weird, like intestines of this ship.
Yeah, they're like being sucked up into the thing, and like it's like they're like trying to back out, and they're screaming, and they're looking around, and then like it gets to the point where like she looks up and she sees the. I thought it was a horse skeleton at first, and I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting, I guess. But then it turns out it's just the plastic decoy, and I was like, okay. I mean, I guess that makes sense.
Was that a horse? I thought it was. Wasn't it the skeleton of a ghost?
Was it a skeleton? I thought it was the plastic horse.
It might have been. I can't remember. It was kind of dark, the shot.
Yeah,
But
and it's very
anyway,
quick. It disappears quickly.
Yeah. So they get sucked up, and then OJ comes upon the scene of an empty little park.
Oh, that's right. So the reason, so what happens after they call the cinematographer isn't just it cutting to black and going to the chimpanzee. They find the flyer that Steve Yuen had given them.
Right. Right,
It says
right.
a star lasso experience or something like that.
Yeah.
And it shows a horse being like pulled up into a flying saucer.
Right. So he's like, "What's going on with my horses?" And so he
Oh, it was a
shows
dead
up,
horse. Okay, so it actually
and-
was a dead
and-
horse.
and then everyone is gone. The place is totally empty, and you hear like the sounds of like, "Hey, partners, you don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. Happy trails," all that sort of stuff coming over the loudspeakers. But the place is completely empty. He goes to the big arena, and it's completely empty, right? And then everything shuts down again because okay, here's the thing that fucking annoys me. This will become more of a problem as it goes. The first time we see that the alien ship knocks out the electricity, the power goes out, and the record player that's playing a song goes like, right? It slows down until it eventually stops. Except they keep doing that for the rest of the movie, even when it's not a record player. Like every time the power goes out and there's music or sound playing, it goes, even though that's not how it would work if it was just like, an MP3 file being played over loudspeakers. Like they do it every time, and it's like, I don't think you guys understand how electricity works. It would just shut off.
They just wanted the cool noise.
They wanted the cool noise. Anyway, so he shows up, and the power goes out again, and then we get another long sequence with this alien ship where he's trying to go get his horse, Lucky, or is it Lucky or Clover?
It's Lucky.
Right. He tries to go get his horse, but he can't go out into the open because he doesn't want to get sucked up by the alien, but he wants to get his horse. How does that scene end?
I don't remember.
Oh yeah, he tries to run away from it, and he like gets kind of sucked up, but he like hits a ceiling and gets knocked out.
Oh yeah. And then he
Yeah, yeah,
wakes
yeah.
up. Oh yeah, and the horse is somehow still in the cage.
Yeah, it was fine. It didn't get sucked up.
Yeah,
It didn't
the
leave
horse
the
was
cage.
right in the middle, essentially, of all those people, but it and the cage stayed. The cage was
Yeah,
sort of an aluminum thing.
it must
The
have been really
power of
heavy, I guess.
the power of the sucky thing on the alien uh, is a
Little
little.
inconsistent. Yeah,
Yeah, because there's that one point like that you see in I think in one of the trailers where it rips the roof off of a house or of a barn, but like then it can't lift up an aluminum cage with a horse in it, but it can lift up a
yeah.
horse.
And then it can't lift up someone when they get like hit by a tarp later. Like he gets hit by a tarp, and that's
Well,
enough to save him from getting sucked up.
isn't that because it's also we can talk about that when we get to it.
Okay, I know. I think I know where you're going.
Yeah.
So OJ comes to, and it's nighttime now, and so he gets his horse, and he goes back to the ranch, and
Yeah, the horse is still there. He
the
goes,
horse
yeah.
so and then he takes it back to the ranch.
He puts it
And what happens
he
here?
puts it in the truck, and
Mm-hmm.
like in the trailer, and he hauls it back. But then he goes back to his ranch, and the truck shuts down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it sits down over the. It sits down over the, or it starts hovering over the house, and there's like the screams and everything of all the people, right?
Yeah.
And then it like all of a sudden they all stop, and then keys and nickels and shit start raining out of it, along with all the blood.
Yes.
Just starts pouring over the. Oh wait, well the cinematographer was in there, wasn't he? Is he in the house for that?
No, he is not. He's
No,
not.
okay.
But Angel, and Emma are in the house, and the ship is floating right over the house itself. It's raining. Oh, this is something. Okay, something that has been that. It's a small detail, but it really annoys me. It's so they have to establish the script thinks it has to establish why this scene of the UFO landing over the house. How come that isn't captured on camera? Well, you see, earlier in preparation for a storm coming, Angel has been putting. This is like when OJ discovers the flyer. Angel has been putting like plastic over the security cameras to protect them from the rain, even though they're outdoor security cameras.
Yeah.
What? That's only so that like they don't get the shot in this scene right now.
I didn't
That's
even
the only
remember
reason.
that they like. Do they even acknowledge that they should be looking at the cameras to try to get a shot? I don't remember if
For
they
this
do.
scene, no, because like, oh well, they've established that they had to cover them for the storm, which makes no fucking sense. Security cameras are outside
Yeah.
all the time, and the ones they get aren't like indoor cameras. You know, they're the kind that you can like find anywhere outside. They'll be fine in the water. All right, it's not like he had to disconnect them because of a power surge. He just covered them with tarp so that they wouldn't get wet, and that
And that
only happens
fucks with the shot.
because
Yeah.
they would have gotten the shot tonight if he didn't. Which is one point against this scene that we're about to discuss, because this scene, in my opinion, is super useless, and I hate it. So the ship lands over top of the house, right?
Yeah, OJ's truck
And-
has stopped working. It can't move anymore. Lucky is in the trailer.
He's out in the pouring rain, a little ways away from the house. Inside the house, there's no rain on the house at first, but you hear the screams from the ship. And then the screams stop, and like you said, blood starts raining down on the house, right? Basically,
Yeah.
the ship is like, I don't know, consuming and then barfing up all the people it just ate right on top of the house.
Yeah. Well, I think it's
sounds-
fair to say now it's not a ship. It is just a giant animal. We've gotten
Yes.
to the point where now we have established that it is not a spaceship. It's a large predator.
Yeah, and part of the reason we know that is when it sucks all the people up. Like we see it's basically like insides, and then it spits up all those people, right? But how
Yeah.
do our main characters know that it's an animal and not a spacecraft?
Because Daniel Kaluuya said so.
Yeah, but how does he know that?
He just asked questions. He's just thinking outside the box.
he just assumes it, and then the movie goes, "Yeah, you're
Yeah,
right."
you're right.
Yeah, and then it shows us inside the spaceship that it's basically like a creature and it's got like weird intestines or whatever. And so now we as an audience don't think about how weird it is that he makes that logical leap and assumes that based on basically no evidence because we saw it, but he didn't see that shit.
I didn't really think about that when I don't know. I don't really. There's no answer for it. I don't know if it bothers me like too much.
He just assumes. He just goes.
I kind of like the idea.
I don't think it's a ship. I think it's an animal. And then they go. The movie's like, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I guess you just assume that, and I guess that's just how it works. But that is the basic twist, right? The twist is that it's not a UFO. It's not a spacecraft, I should say, because it is still a UFO. But it's a creature. It is the alien creature itself.
It is a flying saucer shaped alien creature,
yes.
and I will say that the Daniel Kaluuya basically just being like, well, what if it's not a ship? That didn't bother me as much as part of the twist as the fact that somehow it manages to create a perfectly stationary cloud that looks exactly like a cloud.
I don't know what that is.
Like that, it was just like that seems like he was like, oh yeah, no, you'll think it's a cloaking device, but really it's not. And like, I almost feel like it's better that they don't try to explain it, because if they did, I don't think they'd do a very good job. You know what I mean?
Yes, because you have to assume it's a very intelligent creature. It's an insanely intelligent creature.
And that it has like a crazy camouflage system that
like, it's not a bad idea. It's not a bad twist, but personally, I was more interested in the fact that that it was a ship and that these were aliens. So when they're like, "Oh, we're not doing that. This is just some weird predator," I was like, "Okay, now this is more like Jaws or something." But that's fine, I guess. It's not bad. I just don't like it quite as much.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't. I kind of thought it was. I was like, oh, that's kind of cool, I guess. I'm not going to think too hard about how much it doesn't make sense, because it does bother me a little bit how much some of the like things at the beginning are like, you know, when he like looks up from his phone at the very beginning when his dad is about to die, and he doesn't see anything, but then like every other time whenever he looks up at it, once he knows what it is, you can see the whole thing, and it doesn't look like just the empty sky or just a cloud. But the very first time it happened, it did. So it's just like, okay, like...
It's weird that it has a cloud cloaking device, but it doesn't follow it.
When it hides behind other clouds, it doesn't like... When it's flying around, it zips between multiple different clouds.
Yeah.
But this is, you know, the desert in Hollywood, or the desert in California. Like, there are days when there are no clouds out there. Like...
Oh, and then okay, so he drives a little closer once his car starts working, and he kind of the rain stops, and so it's obvious that the alien creature UFO thing is above him. And then he does another one of these nope things where he goes, nope, I'm not getting out of the car to look at it.
He kind of like peeks up and looks at the thing, and he sees the big gaping hole at the bottom.
Yeah.
And he goes, nope, and then he closes the door, and he just kind of sits there, and then he locks it. And this is the one that worked for me, because I was like, that seems like a safari type thing. Like if I was on a safari and there's an angry hippo outside my Jeep or my car or something, I'm like, nope.
No, this one makes sense, because he's just, I'm gonna sit in the car and wait to see what happens. You know, like if I get out of the car and it sucks me up, that's on me. You know, but if I'm like, if I'm in the car and it sucks the entire truck up, that's, you know, it deserves me at that point. So he just sits there, and they're doing this weird fucking thing where, what's his name? Angel's truck is like, the power has come back on in the house, and Angel's truck, the power has come back on, and the radio is playing. I wear my sunglasses at night, but it's playing at like half speed, not full speed again, for no reason.
Because Jordan Peele likes slowed down pop music. It sounds
for
creepy.
No reason. It makes no fucking sense.
He did that in Us a bunch too, with the main theme song being the I've Got Five on it, but like distorted into a horror movie thing.
Yeah, it's dumb. It specifically does not follow the rules that the movie has set up for like what happens when the power goes out. It's just there to be annoying to me personally, I'm pretty sure. And so eventually like Daniel Kaluuya does get out of the car and he's like trying to wave Angel and M to get into the truck with him at some point.
Yeah.
Or like, oh no,
Because he falls asleep.
The decoy horse.
Oh yeah, the decoy
out,
horse like gets spat out like right
gets
into
spat
the
out and crashes right into his windshield, and then he's like trying to get the other guys to come out of the house and get into Angel's truck so they can drive away, and then there's this weird moment where M is like, "I gotta get out of this house," and Angel's like, "No, we're safe in here." And she's like, I gotta get out of this house. And it's like, no, he's right. What are you doing?
No, he is absolutely right.
He's absolutely right. Stay in the house. What the fuck are you talking about? But like, they run out of the house anyway, and they jump into his like van, and then the power comes back on fully, and now the music is playing at normal speed for some fucking reason, and then they drive off. Now,
yeah, and they go.
I don't like this sequence really at all.
When they get in Angel's truck and drive away, yeah, I was a little confused by that.
No. Before we even get that, this whole nighttime sequence, I don't like it at all. I think...
Oh, the part where he, like, wakes up in the car and then goes out to try to get them and drives off?
Yeah, and, like, this whole thing, it's spitting blood on the house. It just makes me ask weird questions about what the fuck this alien thing wants and is doing. And... we don't actually learn anything new in this sequence. He will eventually assume and tell them later that like, hey, I think this thing is an alien, is a creature and not a ship. But we don't learn that from this scene. The only thing that this scene adds at all, other than like adding to the runtime, is that he has the idea to maybe I shouldn't look it in the eye and then maybe it won't attack me. But like it's not proven here. It's like
well, I mean it's just like him hiding in the truck, sitting in the. But okay. Yeah, I didn't mind this scene very. Like I didn't think this was awful. No. With all the blood and everything.
Okay. Yeah, but it doesn't add anything. It doesn't further the story. So let's think about what's happened in this act that's actually furthered what they're trying to do and what their goals are. They go get cameras. Good. They try to set them up, but they can't get the shot because of a fucking praying mantis. Sure. Whatever. Yeah. They try to call the cinematographer guy, and he's just like, nope, I'm not going to help you out. It's like, okay. And then we get that whole fucking 12-minute Gordy sequence, and then we see that Steve Yuen and all those people are dead. And then he gets his horse back, and then we get this nighttime sequence with the ship, but they turned the cameras off for no reason, so there's no chance of getting it on video. And we're just like waiting for this sequence to be over where no one dies.
And then they just run away, yeah.
And then they just run away. Like
I don't know, man, because like I know that it doesn't further the goal, but it does good character work for Steve Yuen. I think the idea of
no, not that. I'm talking about the nighttime sequence.
Oh, just the nighttime sequence where it
because what happens to him. I like what they do with Steve Yuen's character, but I also like the idea of him being something of a human, not even like an antagonist, not a villain, but an antagonist, right? Because we established in the first act that he's using the horses he sells them as bait for these aliens as part of his show. We never actually get any confrontation based on that.
Well, and so this part did bug me a little bit, because he comes over and says, I want to show you the new thing that we're doing. Then he goes and is talking to everybody who's there as if it's the first time that it's going to happen in front of an audience. But he's bought 10 horses. So is this 10 test runs? Or
I don't know. Apparently these are a bunch of test runs. They definitely heavily imply that this is the first time he's premiered the show.
And it's 10 horses at $11.5 a horse, which is that's $115,000 to sink into test runs
Yeah, I don't know.
for.
Maybe this isn't the first time they've done the show.
But he definitely
Actually,
says it doesn't. Okay, there was definitely
no,
somebody
but
else
also
in here who
there
saw
was some
the
there
movie.
was some implications that this is the first time he's debuted the show. Also because of how few people were there. You know, if this was a show he's done several times and people have actually seen an alien, there'd be a lot more people there. You know.
Well, people would be talking about it, and then the whole plot of, well, we have a picture of one, give us
Hmm.
money wouldn't matter because it would have
Yeah.
like people would have seen it already. It would have
Yeah.
news would have. So yeah, it has to be like it necessarily has to be the first time. But he has sunk 100. I mean, he's running a Pioneer Village. I don't believe he's got
He's
hundred
not
and
swimming in
fifteen
it.
thousand dollars
Yeah.
to
I
just
guess
throw around
I guess he's got fuck you royalty money from all those
from
movies.
from this SNL skit.
But I mean,
That's why he's so
I
enthusiastic.
I
about
like
it.
what they do with his character. I like his character a lot. I like the scene of him putting on the show for people, and then he just fucking dies, and that's it.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that not a waste of his character for you? Like that he has no role in the rest of the movie.
I
There's
think
no
that could
final,
have been
there's no
closer to the end,
confrontation. There's no confrontation between him and OJ. There's no discussion between him and OJ about like what the proper response to these aliens should be in terms of like the themes about spectacle and uh commodification or whatever. All the themes like his role in the story for all the time we spent with that Gordy shit is just fucking over now because he's dead. And it's like, oh, great. Why did we've spent more time on this guy's character and backstory than anyone else who's in the movie for so much longer? Like he's just dead. Our heroes don't even see him die. Like our main characters don't see him die. We never get to hear.
He doesn't. Yeah.
Like, wouldn't it be great if he survived that somehow and like a bunch of people were killed and then you can play with that dramatically? Like, I don't know. It just felt like such a waste of potential to kill him because he's one of the more interesting characters. And then
Yeah, I mean, he's
nope,
definitely
that's it for him.
he's definitely my favorite. Well, one of my favorite parts of the movie. I do really like Daniel Kaluuya's character, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, all of what you are describing to me does sound good. I just like didn't really think about it when I was watching
Mhm.
at the time. I was just kind of like, okay, I guess he's dead. Where are we gonna go now? And yeah, I don't know.
And then
Cinematographer's
after,
not a great replacement.
no. And then after he's dead, we get this nighttime sequence where we don't learn anything new about the creature and it doesn't further any of our goals. And also in this same act, we've seen that, like, I think overly long sequence where we're rehashing a lot of the Gordy stuff. And I'm like, what happened to all this stuff we set up in Act 1? Are we going to do any of that? Like, that's the feeling I'm getting when I'm watching this in the theater. I'm like, are we going to like it's been like 45 minutes or maybe an hour since they've taken any step towards trying to get this on video since buying the first cameras. You know what I mean? Like they
Yeah,
bought the cameras and then it hasn't worked. And then we spend like 45 minutes to an hour doing a whole bunch of other shit. And then eventually we finally get back to progressing the main plot and the main question about trying to get this thing on video. But that's like a solid hour later. And it's like there's so much
yeah. I
wasted
guess I
time
kind of
and
let
wasted
that.
potential.
I guess I kind of let that go because I was kind of interested. I thought that I was interested in the idea of the twist. I
Hmm.
like. I do think it's an interesting twist idea. The execution is flubbed a little bit, I would say, but
Yeah.
I like
I
the
don't hate that it's a creature instead of a ship full of aliens. I'm okay with that. I'm not okay with how off the rails the story is in terms of progressing its like main dramatic question and like what we're here to do. Like we've forgotten about that for a while because we're not even going to jump right back into it yet.
yeah,
They
they're
drive
hiding it.
away. They go to Angel's place and they're all just kind of sitting around there at Angel's place. He's playing a VR game and she's also playing a VR game and OJ's kind of sitting there like more focused on the actual story of what's happening in this movie. And then, what do they go? What happens next?
They go
Do
out
we
for
go?
food or something, right? Or they...
Yeah, right. They go out for food, and this is another thing that fucking annoyed me about this M character. So they go out for food. They're it's like Long John Silver's or something like that, something where you can get like fried fish. And Angel's like, "Oh, you can't beat a fried fish sandwich." You know, they're trying to talk about anything else.
Yeah.
And then OJ is like, "I don't think it's a ship. I think it's a creature." You know, I think this is when he says that to them. And they're
Oh.
like, "Hey," or something like that. He says is still talking about like, "Hey, we need to try and get this thing," or he has some ideas about. No, I think he says like, "I don't think it kills you if you don't look it in the eye."
Right,
Right?
yeah, that's what... Yeah.
Because
Because it's a predator. And
because
he's...
the predator, it's an animal. He thinks maybe it operates kind of like a horse. You know,
Or like an animal.
he's-
Like, chimpanzees freak
Yeah.
out if you look them in the eye at the wrong time,
Yeah.
too.
Yeah. Not every predator follows that rule, so it's a little bit of a stretch, but he turns out to be right. That's fine. And he's still focused on the task at hand. He's still focused on the main goal of the movie. And she's like, "Hey, no one wants to hear about that shit right now." It's like, fuck you. Fuck you. You were safe in the house and nothing happened to you. And now you're like, I don't know. It just annoyed me because then they go outside and he's like, "Listen, I gotta, like, I still think, I think we can work something out here. I think we can have a plan." And she is not going to do it at all. She's just going to leave until she gets a call from the cinematographer who's like, "Actually, I heard about what happened with the people at that park or at the amusement park, the
Yeah.
the Woody's Roundup thing. And now I'm gonna join you
Now
guys."
I'm gonna join you.
He does a 180, kind of out of nowhere.
Which leads to her doing a 180 kind of out of
Yeah,
nowhere.
exactly. And it's like, what are we doing with this character? I feel like we had so much potential with her.
Yeah, this would have been a really good opportunity for her to kind of show that she values something other than just herself and her self-image, and
Yeah.
like she's trying to keep a piece of her family alive. And
Yeah.
OJ seems to be the only one who's concerned with that.
Yeah. Also, this feels like the closest that we're gonna get to a like low point. Like, there's kind of two potential like second act crisis low points in this movie. Like typical movies have.
Yeah.
One of them is this moment, and I think this is a really shitty like second act low point because they're not furthest away from their goal at all. Like, we haven't really had any major setbacks. We didn't even really get any like strong character arguments where he's like, "Come on, we gotta save the business. Like we gotta see this plan through." And she's like, "No, I'm out of here." But we didn't even do that. We didn't
No.
even do like an argument between them about this, where it's like, "How are you gonna give up this? Like, you've given up on everything else." You know what I mean? There's so much you could do if this was the low point. If this was a movie. If this was like a proper movie script.
Yeah,
You could
it
do a lot
does
there.
kind of just amble along for a little bit.
They just amble along, and she's like, "Nah, I'm not going back to the house to try to get more video of it." Then the cinematographer calls her, and so I guess she's back on board now. It's like, okay,
We're gonna
maybe
make
this
you all
wasn't-
kinds of money. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, maybe this wasn't the second act low point. I'm kind of confused by what we're supposed to be doing here. But anyway, they go back to the house, and the cinematographer guy is there, and he's like, "Hey, check out this non-electric camera I have. It's an old film camera. It doesn't have any electricity, so it's not gonna get knocked out when the power goes out." And it's like, hey, look at that. That's a smart idea.
Yeah.
That's a smart plan.
Well,
got
he
like a
also
hand
notices
crank.
the cloud, too. He's like, that cloud
He
ain't
notices
moved
the
an
cloud.
inch.
Yeah. And it's like, now we have a movie again. And now I'm back on board. And I'm watching and I'm like, oh, fuck yeah. Because then they start forming the plan. And like, okay, he's got the nice camera that's a hand crank film camera that doesn't rely on electricity, so it's not going to get knocked out when the alien comes. So I'm like, that's a good fucking idea. Glad he's suddenly on board. And it's like, okay,
And he's
here's
kind
what
of
we're gonna
gruff, but like in a charming kind of way. So he's not
Yeah.
like the worst character.
do. Uh-huh.
He's
And then-
interesting enough personality wise.
Yeah, and then OJ comes up with this plan where it's like, okay, here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna be down there with a horse. I think that if I don't look it in the eye, it won't kill me, right? So I'm gonna go out there with the horse, and then I have like he has this hood that he puts little eyes, like these like reflectors on the back of the hood that kind of look like eyes. So he's hoping that like he can go lure the thing into a certain area, and then the camera guys are going to be on the ridge, and they're going to
Yeah.
be ready to get the perfect shot, right?
Yeah, and he
And so,
realizes that it didn't like the decoy and it didn't like the rope of flags. He kind of
yes.
basically goes like, that thing, those messed it up good. It didn't like, it didn't like that. It didn't like trying to digest that.
Out, those were inedible to it, right? And
Yeah.
so he has this plan where like he's gonna lure the thing, and it's gonna try to come get him. And he's, as we'll see in a minute, he releases this like flag parachute thing. I'm not sure where he gets this.
I don't know. I did not notice where that came from. I don't know where they got all of the all the little wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube men that they use for the plan.
They got that in the very beginning when they're driving back from the film shoot that goes wrong. They pass like a car dealership that has a bunch of those or something.
I just have to assume she stole them.
Yeah, she does steal them. See, that's what I mean. That's what she contributes to the movie is the initial idea to try to get this on film, or like so they can make money, and then stealing shit from people. I don't like her very much. Otherwise, she's pretty useless. I'll give you an example of that in a minute. But they come up with this pretty nice plan, and it's towards the ends that they're trying to capture this thing on film. She goes, or they go, I think she does, steals a bunch of these wacky inflatable flailing arm tube men from some poor sap.
See, some car dealership guy who doesn't matter. He's
So
just got a mortgage and three kids.
They set them up all over their ranch property. And the idea is that like they're going to hook them up to car batteries, yada yada. So they have all these flailing arm tube men guys. And when the alien, you can tell where the alien is relative to the ground. Obviously, it's up hiding in the clouds most of the time. But you can tell where it is on the property based on where the localized flailing arm tube men power goes out, right? And I'm like, that's a good way of indicating where it is above them anyway, right?
Yeah.
Because the power goes out in a pretty localized area whenever it's nearby. So they set these things up all over the place. They set like their nice camera spot up on the ridge, and he has a plan where he's going to go lure them out. And it's like the camera guy's got a job to do. He's got a cool camera that he's bringing to the table that's going to help them in this situation.
Angel has a job to do. He's the cameraman's assistant.
He's the cameraman's assistant. And as it turns out, he hooked up all these inflatable armed tube men to one big grid and like put them all on car batteries. He did all that. It's a weird detail, but there's a part where she goes like, hey, I don't have a video feed into the cinematographer's like film camera, and he's like, "Hey, I mean it's a film camera, so and all our stuff is digital. I don't have a way of doing that." And I think, okay, yeah, I mean that makes sense.
Yeah.
You don't necessarily have a video feed for it, but M says to him, "Oh, so you forgot?" Like really passive aggressive, like, "Oh, so you forgot then?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. I've been busy setting up all these inflatable armed tube men all over your property and hooking them up to car batteries and shit. I didn't realize that was my job too." And so basically, I don't know what this scene accomplishes, except for telling us that we don't have a video feed of his camera. Because all it really does is imply that Angel is doing a lot of work here, and she's still being lazy as fuck.
She's not doing anything, yeah.
I don't know what she's doing. It was her idea to go get those things. But for all we know, she didn't even go get them. She didn't set them up. What has she been doing while he's like going out physically setting up all these tube men and hooking them up to car batteries?
And while her brother has been busy getting ready to risk his fucking life to lure like a super
I just
predator.
I couldn't believe she had the nerve to be like, "Oh, so you forgot then."
I mean, I could believe that the character that we have met in this movie would do that.
Yeah.
She's just kind of a bitch.
She's kind of a bitch, and we don't do anything to redeem that. We don't. It's crazy to me that it's like he must not know. It's like she's lazy, She doesn't care about the family business, even though we clearly do, because we like our main character, OJ. We're more invested in the family business
Heard it
as an
here
audience
first.
than she
I like
is.
OJ.
She's not doing it. She won't do any hard work to help him out. She's lazy. She won't do any hard work in general. She's out for herself. She steals shit from people, and then she's mad at Angel when he
Does more work than
magically
her.
produce a remote video feed for this hand
From
crank film camera. Like what the
A custom
fuck?
built hand cranked
Yeah.
film reel camera. Yeah, she is not a very charming character.
Someone in the comments said they both sound like terrible people. OJ is not a terrible person. He's actually pretty great.
Yeah, he
like
is.
him.
OJ
I'm very
is
invested
fine.
in him. I want him to save the business.
Yeah.
You know?
He's
The
doing
only thing
everything
that's-
reasonable.
Yeah, he's doing reasonable things. The only thing that's weird is that he makes a couple big assumptions. The movie's just like, no, you're right. Don't worry about it. It's like he just makes some big assumptions.
It's
based
just
on
like
little evidence.
he has like natural instinct of a rancher.
Yeah, which is fine.
It's
So they set up-
convenient, but it doesn't break it for me.
Exactly. So they set up this nice plan, and this, like I said, this is when I'm back invested in the movie. Like, I was gone for about an hour because they did a whole bunch of bullshit, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Not all bad, but like they did a lot of bullshit. I'm like, finally, we're back to the plan and the thing we're all here to do. Great. And so we got this plan, right? He's out. OJ is out there in the fields of the ranch. M is at the house watching the security cameras, and everybody's on walkie-talkie. And then the cinematographer and Angel are up on this nice little ridge where they have a good view of everything that's about to happen. So they're waiting for this thing to show up. And then suddenly a man on a motorcycle comes roaring up to the house. And
he's got a shiny silver helmet with you might have seen this in the trailer too. It's a very cool looking or interesting looking
so what's the
costume
deal
design.
with, like, it has like, so he has a shiny metal motorcycle helmet.
It's like a
with,
mirrored
with
one
like
eye hole.
one eye hole. Like, does he only have one eye? Is the other one, like, you just can't, like,
I have no
is
fucking
the whole
clue
thing
what that is.
transparent?
I thought it
I'm
was
so
just because it
confused
looked
by
cool. I literally just thought it was because it looked cool. I don't think there's a reason. Well, I mean, there is a reason. There is a story reason. Maybe he was like shopping around thrift stores for motorcycle helmets for the prop department. And
It's a
stumbled
weird
on that.
helmet.
He was like, "Oh, perfect."
I can't tell if that eye hole is supposed to be the only place he can see out of, or it's just like a weird design choice. I don't know. Maybe
It just
this
looks like
is
a Daft Punk helmet to me. Like
It does. It does. Maybe someone who knows motorcycles understands what the fuck that helmet's about, but it was weird. But he shows up and he's like, "Hey, did you guys hear about that ranch next door where all those people died or
disappeared?" He also says something about, "Do you see that cloud there? You notice that cloud?" And so now I'm starting to get a little annoyed that fucking everybody seems to have noticed this cloud.
All of a sudden, once it's been pointed out, everyone who comes here is like, "Hey, look at the cloud." And she's like, "Hey, if you're trying to get to that other ranch, it's quicker to go around the other way." And he like pulls out, he has like two cameras on a little hand rig, and he's like, "Oh, do you know what happened over there? What's your side of the story?" And she goes, "Oh, it's TMZ." And I'm like,
that was a really weird payoff for the creepy Daft Punk motorcycle helmet thing from the trailer. I did not care for that payoff.
So it's like, oh, I guess he's a TMZ reporter and he's here for a scoop. And she's like, "You got to get out of here. I don't know anything about what you're after. Get out of here." And he goes, "Okay, suit yourself." And then he speeds off down the road.
Oh, he says one more thing that I think is kind of important that we should probably mention, is that he says that this area of the map on Google Maps doesn't even show up. It's all blurry.
Yeah, it's kind of blurry. And I'm like, okay. I mean, maybe I can understand that because it's a private road, so maybe like a Google Maps camera doesn't notice it.
Maybe.
Or maybe there's a weird cloaking device.
Well,
you know what I mean?
maybe the alien spaceship has a cloaking device.
It's a weird thing to set up because it doesn't pay off at all.
I think what it's doing, I don't think it's set up. I think it's answering the question of like, well, how come nobody's noticed a giant like manta ray looking thing floating?
I guess so. Yeah, I guess you're right. Like, no satellites would have picked it up. Okay.
Yeah, I think that's all it's meant to do, is to cover that question that people.
But it doesn't really cover that question though. It covers why you can't find it on Google Maps, but like those pictures were like taken a while ago.
It is the only, well, some of them, yeah.
Like Google Earth isn't a live view of what's happening right above you right now. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not like, I think that it's just like the half-assed explanation. Like,
Okay.
not that it does work as an explanation, but that is the only reason why it's there.
I guess you can imagine that it's like part of the explanation, not the whole thing. That like there's some sort of fuckery going on where the satellites aren't getting a good clear view of this area. Fine, whatever. And so he's like, all right, well, if you want to help me, I'm out of here. And then he zooms down the road on his fucking motorcycle.
His little electric bike, yeah.
And this is one of the stupidest moments in the whole movie for me. They're like, oh, what happens when a man... who says that? I think it's Angel.
It's Angel, yeah. He's like, oh, here we go. What happens when a guy going 60 miles an hour on an electric bike hits an anti-electricity field? And then he hits it.
And then he, like, hits a brick wall almost, an invisible brick wall, goes tumbling over the motorcycle, because, like, the motorcycle stops on a dime and he goes flying over it. And then he, like, crash lands horribly on the ground. And that's not how any of that fucking shit works. What the fuck? That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
I don't know why it wouldn't just slow down.
It would just slow down like fucking everything else.
Like all the other trucks, yeah.
Yeah, it slows down the trucks. It slows down the record player and all the audio. It goes... Boo. But for him, it's like he comes up to where the alien is above him in the clouds, and it like he hits an invisible brick wall and it sends him careening over the motorcycle. It doesn't make any fucking sense.
It's
really
not
stupid.
At all. When he goes flying over and he like screams or whatever, and then he's like kind of moaning, and Angel goes, "Wow, I'm surprised that guy's not dead." And I'm just like, well, I mean, yeah.
The movie's just like, haha, the TMZ guy got hurt. And I'm like, what are we doing right now?
So the TMZ guy got hurt. He is down, essentially, like, legs broken in front of
OJ.
what is essentially like a freaking hippopotamus or a lion or something like that is like right there. And so OJ decides he needs to save him. He's going to ride out and try to get him on the horse and get him to safety, and try to do it without spooking, the giant feral beast that's right above him. And just real quick to the chat, you could cut the motorcycle guy from the film entirely. No,
not quite,
because of what's about to happen here. So he's trying.
There's an interesting interesting little character thing where M is like, just fucking leave him, about the guy, and then OJ's like, I don't think he says anything, but he's like, basically like, nah, I gotta go save that guy.
Nope.
He's just sitting out there.
He just goes, nope, and then goes for it.
Well, it's like the opposite of the nope beam. He's gonna go put himself in harm's way to go save this guy.
Yeah, no, he tells her
I
nope.
like that. And I remember thinking when M is like, what are you doing? Just leave him. And it's like, no, OJ's actually a good person. OJ, I should say. This OJ is a good person.
OJ, we got that on... Clip that. OJ's actually a good person.
So he goes out to try to save this guy, but the guy is being so fucking weird. He's like, hey, where's your phone? Why aren't you recording this right now?
Yeah, well, because he can see the alien above him. And so he's like, where's your phone? Why aren't you recording this? Where's my camera? Get me my camera. And, like, OJ's trying to tell him, like, hey, come on, man, just shut the fuck up. We gotta just, we're gonna go. We're gonna get out of here. He's like, no, you gotta take a picture. You gotta record.
That's so annoying. That's so annoying because it's obvious what he's trying to do, like with the ideas of this movie. But I'm like, oh, this guy has just no self-preservation instincts. Okay, cool. What a plot device this guy is.
Yeah,
and so he like doesn't want to be helped or something, or like he starts to help him, but then the alien is coming, so he has to kind of abandon him.
Well, so the alien is coming, and he's got this shiny metal helmet that is very similar to the like big orb on a stick that spooked the horse earlier in the movie. Right. And so the guy turns his head, and OJ kind of like looks down into it, and as he looks down into it, he sees the giant flying manta ray thing, the flying saucer monster, is like coming down there, and like it's like looking at him, and OJ immediately just goes, all right, well, I gotta get out of here. And so he drops the guy. Yeah. He's like, sorry, bud.
He jumps on his horse.
And he starts going.
He flips his hood up so it has like the reflector eyes on the back. like hoping to like draw the monster after him. So he goes riding his horse down the road, trying to lead it right into that specific spot where he can get it on camera.
Yes.
The shit, and it's working.
And he
the
says
manta ray.
he says a thing. I want to just point out another joke that I thought worked for me quite well was when he starts doing it. He's like, I'm doing a run, basically, and she goes, OJ's doing a run. OJ's doing a run, and I laughed at that as well because OJ jokes.
OJ jokes.
OJ jokes.
Can't
I am
go
easily amused.
And so he's doing a run. The manta ray UFO alien is after him, and then he's getting it right into the perfect spot. Oh, and sort of during this sequence, to add to the tension, there's a moment where the guy runs out of film in one magazine, and Angel has to replace it.
He does it wrong too, doesn't he? Like I was kind of cringing it when it like it comes out and it's like the film is out in the light and it's flopping over the camera when he's putting it down.
Yeah,
like,
no, that's the leader. It's not
okay.
the film itself, so he's not doing it wrong there. Anyway, but basically, it's drawn out for tension reasons, right? But eventually, they get the shot, and like he's on, like the thing comes into view. And right as it's about to kill OJ, he like unflips his hood and lets out this weird, colorful parachute flag thing. Now, I don't remember where he gets this, but it's a big like parachute balloon thing that appears behind him, and it kind of like steers the alien away. The alien's like, "Oh, I don't want that again.
I don't want that shit."
And so we get this nice shot of the alien, and it kind of flies away. And it's like, fuck yeah, we got it on camera, and the alien kind of flies away, but we got the shot. We got the shot, guys.
We got the shot. OJ's safe in the house, in the little shack. The horse is safe. The horse made it through. He's got the big flags on, so the monster didn't bother him. The only guy, and even the TMZ guy, I think, is still alive at this point. Or no, maybe he's not. I think he's been pulled in. So the TMZ guy is the only casualty.
No, yeah, he's dead. He's dead at this point.
Yeah, TMZ man is dead. But we got it.
We got the shot.
Everybody's celebrating. It's all good. Oh, wait. What's wrong with the cinematographer?
He's the retard now. That's what's wrong with him.
He sits there and goes, damn. It's going to be golden hour soon.
God, I hate this.
And they all she kind of looks over at him and she goes, yeah, but we got the shot though, but we got
the fucking shot of like, we got proof of aliens on camera.
And he says something along the lines of, we don't deserve the impossible shot. And he walks out of the tent up onto a bare-faced hill.
With a different camera.
Yeah, a different crankable camera.
A different, like, crank film camera. And he's like, oh, it's golden hour now, so...
Wait, is it a different camera, or is it the one... I thought it was the one
no,
with
it's
the
a
film.
different... It's a different camera.
Oh, okay.
This is something I was very interested in paying attention to on a rewatch.
Okay, good, because, like, I was like, why. He really just... I was like, okay,
He grabs a different camera. This is... The other one... The one he was on was kind of a big... tripod mounted. I think it says IMAX on it. I think it's an IMAX film camera that's been adapted to be non-electric. And then when he goes to run up on the hill, he has like what looks like a more standard 35mm film camera, but like a hand cranked one. And so he runs up onto this hill, despite everyone telling him not to. He goes up onto the hill to try to get a nice, beautiful shot because now it's golden hour. It's not enough to fucking get evidence of extraterrestrial life forms on video because it's golden hour and he wants to get the perfect shot because he's an idiot.
He's a big Kubrick guy, you know. He's a perfectionist.
Oh, it's so annoying. So he goes up onto the hill and he's cranking away, and the alien comes up again, and he's like, I don't remember what he says, but he's groaning and is like,
in his very monotone, weird, like Western voice, yeah. And he gets the zuck.
Yeah, the alien gives him the big suck and kills him. So he gets sucked up into the thing for his troubles. And then this is where I was really paying attention. The alien comes over to where Angel is, back where the film cameras were and everything, where they were, and it starts to suck him up, and he kind of runs away from the tent, and like the suck is happening, and then like a tarp hits him and like kind of covers him. So I think the logic is that he's not looking at it. So
I
like
thought, well, okay, so a bunch of barbed wire gets sucked up with that stuff.
not
Not
at
there.
first. Not at first. Because at first it tries to get him, and then like it doesn't quite get him, and he tumbles away, and then he like tumbles down a hill, and then it tries to get him again, and it sucks up all this barbed wire, and
Yeah.
then it finally gets him. It's like very drawn out for some reason.
Wait, does he actually get sucked up? I thought he felt like,
Yeah.
oh, he does he
No, he
really? I didn't
yeah
think I didn't think he died.
no he dies.
Oh fuck. I didn't even. I straight up like thought that so because the barbed
It
wire
like
gets sucked up with him.
he eventually gets sucked up too. Yeah, he dies,
Oh, I didn't remember that.
but it's like kind of drawn out. So cinematographer man dies, and
And Angel dies.
Angel dies,
No,
right?
how? Where
And
is M? Where is she at this point?
she decides to walk out of the house for some stupid reason. She's safe in the house, but she comes out of the house anyway.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah, yeah.
really-
And then she goes into the
really-
shed for some reason instead of staying in the fucking house.
Yeah, she goes into the shed, and like the suck happens to her, but it doesn't quite take her because she's in this weird shed.
But it rips the roof off the shed.
But it rips. Yeah, it's very inconsistent how big the suck is, right? I wanna plant a flag here because it's gonna be important. We don't see whether the camera that got the money shot, whether it was destroyed or not.
Yeah.
The movie just doesn't fucking tell us because the
Yeah.
movie forgot about whether that would be important or not. It's absolutely not unimportant.
No,
It's very
yeah,
important to the central like driving story, but the movie just doesn't tell us whether the suck destroys that camera or not. For all we know, that camera's
Yeah.
still just sitting there and it has the shot.
I honestly didn't even remember the movie telling us that Angel even died. I straight up thought that like he starts to get because he's wrapped up in the tarp with the barbed wire, and he starts to get sucked up, and I could have sworn I saw him like flop back down on the ground, and then it cut away, and then just him never be revisited again.
Yeah.
Like
So
does it
it,
actually show him getting zucked?
yeah, it gets him sucked at the end.
Oh fuck.
Yeah, it like takes a while, but it happens to him.
Yeah,
He dies.
I kind of had
And
like
then
I think I kind of
She
like
comes.
tuned
She
half
comes
at
out
this
of the
point.
house, and she like runs to the shed. It sucks the fucking roof off the shed, but it doesn't get her for some reason. Not sure how that works. And then it's like destroying shit and sucking up other shit around the property. And then it starts to transform, Hugh.
Yeah.
What was a sort of UFO flying saucer manta ray with no tail looking thing starts to change shape into like a giant sail of a pirate ship. Kind of.
Like if you made a jellyfish out of a pirate ship's sail, yeah.
Yeah.
Or a tissue.
I don't know how to describe it. It changes form into something really big.
It looks like a giant.
changes form.
It looks like a giant thing of. So okay, so what I assumed why it changed form because it's about to get to the point where it starts to do that weird thing with the green flag or whatever
Yeah.
that is. So I assumed that it had shown us the barbed wire on Angel because that is what like when it tried to suck him up, it got the barbed wire and that hurt it. So it did like this thing that like I guess like some predators have got to do this, right? Where like it gets hurt and so it flares up to try to appear bigger because it thinks it's in danger. Like
that's what you thought was happening.
that's what I
have no idea.
assumed. That's what I assumed was happening. I was like that. Okay, that because it doesn't tell you when it doesn't show you when it happens, and it doesn't tell you why. So I just kind of put that together, and I was like, okay, I guess that is
It just
what it is. Like that's the most plausible explanation I can come up with for what happens there.
I don't think that is plausible, honestly, because it turns into this looks like its actual final form or something. It transforms entirely and we see like its full giant thing. I don't know. It
Well,
wasn't
but then
in
after,
danger, though.
but well, we don't. Yeah, that's the thing. Is like
It
we don't
didn't
ever
look
really.
like it was wounded either. It just like
We don't
it
ever get
was,
a hint of that. I just kind of was like, okay, well, the barbed wire's like because it sucks him up with barbed wire on it. I assumed that would cause a problem. They lingered on the barbed wire a lot.
yeah, but they didn't show it being a problem because it still moves about just fine. It still
Yeah,
behaves more or less the same. It just looks
it's just
different
like
now.
in one scene, one because after it does that to him, then it goes after M, and we don't really see it go after M. We just kind of see the thing following behind her, the whirlwind following behind her, and she gets
Yeah.
into the shed, and then it rips the head of the shed off, and then the next time we see it, it's the giant ribbon monster.
Yeah.
So,
It's
like,
very
yeah,
bizarre. And then the ribbon monster is like somehow between M and OJ. And like she's
Yeah.
on the motorcycle from the TMZ guy, like trying to get it to work and it doesn't work.
it's
And
literally like like what 3 yards away from her. It's not far from her.
yeah.
And it's got now it's like because it's right next to them. It's humongous. It's like gigantic ribbon shit. But then there's this one
Ribbon sail thing.
There's this one square in the middle that switches back and forth from side to side of it, depending on whether or not it's looking at OJ or M. And
And it's like a green ribbony thing that like
yeah, it's like a green
flutters.
flag that like flutters, and
I
that's
don't
well. So I was. This is why I figured that it had to be like that. It was hurt, or that it was like ready, like it was standing up for a fight, because it's like doing that thing where like some animals have that thing where they flare like something to challenge you. You know, like bulls do the thing with their foot before they charge. And
But it's not this isn't like a predatory like powerful stance. It's slower now. It's like very weird.
Well, but it's huge.
And flamboyant. It's big, but like I guess I'm just
I mean,
I'm
like
so
bears
fucking
get confused when you do the like when you make yourself really big.
I guess.
So
But
like
then it stays in that form. I don't understand the utility of like
I'm
first of all, setting aside the possible explanation for why it changes form, being that it's like trying to appear bigger because it's
because
by
it
the
got
barbed
hurt by the
wire.
barbed wire. That is my
Fine.
working theory. It's not like
Fine.
proven in the thing, but like that's the best explanation I can come up with for what he might have been going for.
Sure. Okay. If we accept that, I hate the design of this alien that it takes in the final form.
It's
I think it
weird,
looks
yeah.
Really, really stupid. It doesn't. It doesn't add anything. It's so weird. I don't know why. It's like it's a shitty design. I like you're telling me that this is like the full creature and what it like really looks like. Okay, it's a giant ribbon sail thing. Okay, what was the point of that?
I don't know. I don't like. I really
Oh,
have.
I just want to say that the only other potential point in the movie that you could consider a second act low point is when Angel and the cinematographer guy are killed. But that's not a second act low point really either because we got the shot and for all we know the camera's still intact. If he showed that the camera was destroyed, I'd be like, okay, all that work for nothing. Now we're at a low point. But I'm just so confused by this script. Like, what the fuck are we doing story wise? Like, it's like they get killed, and then she's trying to run away. She eventually gets far enough away from the alien thing because it's going after OJ. That
Yeah, well, because they've got it between the two of them, and then he pulls like the Giga move where all he has to do apparently to get it to like trigger is just stare at it. Like he just looks up at it, and I mean, and he gives like a cool guy stare down of the thing to get it to distract from M, but she's right next to it, and it cancels out electricity, but for some reason when it starts focusing on OJ, the bike turns on and she can ride away, but then it starts following her instead of OJ.
It's all very confusing, but it doesn't really make any sense, but now it's following her. She's riding away on the motorcycle, and she's headed towards what's it called? The Woody's Roundup, whatever the fuck that place is called, the Jupiter's Claim,
Yeah.
the little park. She goes over there on the motorcycle. We don't really know what OJ's doing at this point. But she gets there and she decides, and like the only real heads up move she makes in the whole thing, she unhooks this giant inflatable icon of like a little sheriff kid.
It's like a little cartoon of Stephen Yuen doing a little
She
finger gun with
unhooks
a
that
wink.
from what's holding it to the ground and starts to float up in the air, and she's like, "That'll get you." And
Yeah.
so like and then like it's a distraction, right? And then meanwhile she sees this well that they set up very, very briefly at the beginning when they first come here to sell the horse. This well is actually a camera that takes a picture from the bottom of the well looking up to match the movie poster from that kid sheriff movie that he was in back in the day. So you can get your picture taken like from the point
you're
of view
in
of the bottom of the well. Yeah. And so now the movie is suddenly about trying to get a picture of the thing on this camera.
Yeah, she starts
confusing to me.
trying to and when she started doing that, I remember being like, "Oh, I guess the camera I guess the footage got zucked." Like, I don't know. Also,
doesn't show us. It doesn't show us. It doesn't specify whether the actual footage got sucked. It's annoying.
Also, there's a thing in the comments or in the chat real quick that says, "Isn't Angel still alive?"
I thought he died.
I thought he was alive too, but I haven't seen it twice.
Well, hold on. Does Angel live in Nope? Because they don't tell us, right?
I don't remember.
They don't specify.
Yeah, and I was gonna say to the person in chat who said this movie won't be winning any Oscars. Have you seen what's been winning Oscars lately? Like,
oh, it says so I found like an Ending Explained article, and it says that he lives.
So, okay, so is the barbed?
So it doesn't eat the wire. It doesn't eat the barbed wire then.
It doesn't eat the wire at all, or because it looks like it gets part of it up there, and he's attached to it.
The fencing stays put, and he comes barreling back down to the ground. So no, he doesn't eat the wire.
So it doesn't even eat. Okay, so it doesn't eat the wire, and he doesn't die.
So he doesn't die, and then the movie just like, okay, he's just laying there. I guess the movie forgets about him after that.
Yeah, and it doesn't, and then it makes it even worse that it so it's not a threat response from being hurt from the barbed wire.
No,
it just turns into a giant Cthulhu ribbon man, a parade balloon. I guess. Now,
even though for all we know, they still have that IMAX camera with the money shot that's video. And by the way, video is so much better for proving an alien than a still photo taken from the bottom of a fucking well. Like, but now the movie has become the monster is going for that giant inflatable kid sheriff thing, and she's got to get a picture. This is her last chance, so she's got to take a picture with this like crank camera.
And she's trying, and she's not doing a good job because she's not timing it properly,
and then it finally comes. She gets the picture. And then it tries to eat the giant inflatable thing, and it blows up.
Yeah, it grabs the giant balloon, and it like folds back into the manta ray flying saucer shape. And as it does, the balloon comes in with it, and it squeezes the balloon, and the balloon explodes, and the monster also explodes. And all the lights end up coming back on very slowly. And now there's just like a giant dead piece of ribbon floating in the air, and there's a bunch of news cameras directly behind her.
Yeah, the
so news... her picture from the bottom of the well is fucking useless because the news is right there.
The news is right there, but they don't act like they got that on camera.
I don't know how they couldn't have. It was like 60 stories tall. But like, it was huge.
The movie presents it like they didn't. They just showed up like, what's going on here? Like that's how they show up. But the movie makes a point of like the final shot of so the cameras show up and she's a little frazzled, and then we see in the distance after some dust clears, we see that OJ's there on the horse, so like he survived, and it's like, oh, thank God he's still alive. And then the final shot of the movie is that photo that she took with that camera. Like,
I liked the shot
we
of
got
OJ
it on.
being alive. I was like, that's pretty. Like, okay, that's pretty cool. Like, because it gave him a little heroic reveal, riding
I mean,
Lucky
I'm glad
behind the
he's
thing.
still alive. And then the movie ends with a shot, like, hey, we got the shot.
Although,
is the implication of the ending.
I do want to also say that during the chase scene, when she's running away from it on the motorcycle, I was just like, wait, wasn't OJ trying to distract it so that she could get away? Like, it's still following her. What happened? And then we don't go back to OJ the whole time. The last thing we see of him, he's staring at the monster. We know it doesn't eat him. And then she rides away on the bike, and it chases her. So
yeah, so it's not a reveal that he's still alive.
He's just not doing anything for the entire last part of the movie, which is kind of like insulting.
I mean, I assumed he was riding over on his horse while she's doing that shit, but I don't know.
Yeah, but like you could have given him, something to do, considering he was the one who, actually took action.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole thing.
Okay, but we got to set that aside because we're at the end of the movie, and the resolution of the movie is we got the shot on a shitty camera inside a well that got a sort of awkward up angle picture of the giant ribbon thing in the air. Just one still photo, not a video, right before it blew up and kind of like disintegrated. No attention is paid to whether the IMAX camera is still intact or not, because that's the real money shot. Suddenly at the end of the movie's like, ha, we got one snapshot of it, and so we did it. It's like, what the fuck is this an ending to? This is not an ending to the first act of this movie. What the fuck? The movie just ends there. We don't even find out if he managed to save the business or not. That doesn't even fucking happen. That was the main thing. The whole main thing was, I gotta save my dad's business. And maybe capturing this thing on film will be a way to like help save the business. And if it isn't, then maybe they save the business another way. That's the story. And we just don't resolve that. It's just over now. The movie is ended. They got the alien is dead, and they got one shitty, like definitely could have been faked photo from this well camera.
I mean, they could have spilled something on the...
Yeah, and we're supposed
negative.
to act like that's a resolution to the story. No, it isn't. What the fuck? That's like we haven't answered any of the main dramatic questions from Act 1.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
That's the movie. The movie's over.
The ending
now.
the ending is really bad.
The ending is shit, dude. Shit. Like, what was that final act? It was just like, oh, we got the shot. I want to get a better shot. What? Oh, it killed him. Oh, I guess
Angel... it kind of killed, but didn't really kill Angel.
I guess it didn't kill Angel. I guess I just misremembered that. And then it turns into a giant ribbon monster for no discernible reason. And then the movie is like, oh, we gotta destroy it with the inflatable thing like a bomb.
It pops like a... Yeah, I can't... Why
and
wouldn't
then we
it just
gotta get it on the well camera.
Like...
Remember the well camera from the beginning? It's like, that's not what I want you to come back to. I wanted you to come back to the story. Not like the stupid fucking well camera that we saw for 30 seconds at the very beginning. It's not an ending. That is not an ending.
No.
Fuck that. We didn't end up doing anything with Steve Yuen other than killing him.
We developed his character, and yeah.
We established his character, didn't use him for any drama with the main character, and then killed him, and that's it. Nothing important comes of his death either. Really? What the fuck?
Yeah.
This is what I mean by the movie is a waste. There's a whole hour, almost 45 minutes to an hour in the middle of the movie where we're not progressing the main story and we're learning very little, if anything.
And then it just doesn't even end.
We're just doing spooky shit. We get back to the main plot eventually, and we're like, oh, cool, we're doing shit with the plan. We succeed with the plan, and then everyone turns into a retard. and suddenly we don't care about that anymore, and then the movie just ends.
I liked it a
Anyway,
lot.
thanks for coming.
So here's the thing. I liked it a lot better when I thought that it had bit the barbed wire. When I thought that it had bit the barbed wire, I was like, okay,
Yeah.
well, at least there's like, I mean, I don't really get it, but at least there's a reason why we're doing this, like a plausible in my mind reason.
Yeah, I don't think that.
Knowing that that doesn't hold, I don't know. I still don't mind the stuff in the second act. I think as much as you, it doesn't bother me as much because I think it's pretty effective for me. But I do get because like it doesn't end. There's no ending.
The movie doesn't end. The movie doesn't resolve any of the interesting things it sets up. We don't do anything with M and OJ and like having a difference of opinion or like having an argument about like
Yeah, there's all that
importance of the
character
business.
stuff doesn't. It just goes nowhere.
None of that character stuff is paid off at all. Like what the fuck? I was interested in that. I liked the first act of this movie a lot. I liked it a lot. And then we waste all of that.
Yeah.
Almost all of that. I mean, and I guess what annoys me about the second act doing the Gordy shit, it's like, okay, but we're not doing the main story. And it's like, oh, another alien attack at night. Nothing, we don't learn anything new. We just do spooky, like, oh, it's raining blood now. And, oh, it's, it killed those people. And, oh, it's dropping the decoy horse. I'm like, okay, yeah, but we're not doing the main story, though. And then, like we go to Angel's house and they're just playing a VR game. And I'm like, okay, cool, but we're not doing the main story, though. Can we get back to that, please? I liked that stuff. I liked what you set up. Can we pay up? Can we pay off that stuff? It just gets so boring because I'm not interested. The only time I'm like, there's the first act, I'm like, this is great. And then the second act does a whole bunch of stuff to get me like to be not interested anymore until the cinematographer guy just decides to show up in the movie. And it's like, you could cut out a lot of that stuff in the middle. And then the first time they call the cinematographer, he just actually shows up. And you have like a 90-minute movie where we don't waste a lot of time in the second act. But even then, there's no ending. There's no ending. This movie does not end.
Yeah, it's still missing some falling action here.
Yes, the falling action is super important. Like, okay, so some people compare this movie to. Oh, we got some sex bots. That's fun. Let's report that. Okay, so yeah. Yeah, so like the movie doesn't end. Okay, some people have compared this movie to Jaws, you know?
Yeah, well I've seen people talking about how it's Spielbergian.
Yeah, that's an insult to Spielberg. Fuck that shit. This movie pales in comparison to Jaws. Jaws has such a tight script, and this movie is like fucking nothing compared to it. Let's think about the main dramatic question of Jaws, right? What do we establish in the beginning? Oh, there's a shark that's killing people. We gotta go stop the shark from killing people so we can save July 4th weekend. So they go out, they take a whole bunch of steps towards that goal, and they eventually kill the shark. And then the movie ends because we killed the shark and saved the day. This is like, we're falling on hard times. Oh my god, there's this UFO. Maybe if we can capture video of this UFO, we can save the family business. And then they sort of take steps towards that, and then the movie does a whole bunch of other random shit for a while, and then we come back to that finally, and then the resolution of the movie is that we killed the thing. It's like they killed it. Like
the resolution of the movie is we got the footage, and then everybody turned into an idiot, and then that way, and then we bumbled around and accidentally killed the thing.
Yeah, we got the footage. It may or may not have been destroyed. What? How come we don't know that? How come we as audience members don't know? It would be super easy to just either show or not show the camera, and they just don't tell us.
They barely even show the one guy not being dead, to the point that it caused I'm sure it caused confusion.
It confused me anyway, and I saw the movie twice. Maybe I'm just a big dum-dum, but I thought they got him. Anyway, So now the resolution of the movie is, guys, we killed the alien. I'm like, yeah, but what about saving the family business? Remember all that time we spent setting up that being the main the main driving thrust of the movie? Remember all that? I do. It was about 2 hours ago, and it was really good. And now all of a sudden you don't care about that. And fuck the family business. We don't even find out if they saved the family business. What? This is the movie where you need falling action. If the main climax is, hey, we destroyed the alien and we got one picture of it, I want to know what happens next. Because the story is not over yet, you idiot. Like, this movie does not end, it stops.
Yeah.
And I hate that. I hate that so much. I don't care about all the interesting stuff anymore. Because I'm like, this movie doesn't stick. It doesn't even try to stick the landing. It's just
it doesn't really.
It cuts before the gymnast even hits the ground, and I'm like, what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, most of what I liked is just me remembering the good stuff of like the character development and all that. Like, oh, that's really well. Like the editing tricks were nice. It was shot pretty well.
The
first
characters
act's
are
pretty
good.
The characters are good up until the very end. And then, like, I was more on board for it, definitely, before the barbed wire thing was proven to be.
That was a big thing for you, huh?
Well, I mean, like, it explained it at least a little bit in my brain, you know? It's like, okay, well, it's hurt, and now it's got a defense mechanism. Like, I guess that, sure, why not? I'll headcanon that happily, because it makes sense to me. But now
someone asked a good question. Eric VOO, Eric Vu, I don't know how I'm supposed to say that. Asked a good question. How does a balloon kill a creature that can fly, suck organisms?
Give them the zuck and close.
Yeah, well, that's a good question. Why does that kill it? I don't know. It pops it like a giant balloon, which I don't know why it shouldn't be filled with helium, right? Why?
Well, I mean, if it
filled with helium.
I mean, if it was floating, it would be. Right.
I know, but why was it filled with helium? Like,
I don't know. Do they fill those with helium?
Oh, I don't fucking know. It wasn't meant to float.
I don't know.
Maybe that's how it stays up. I don't fucking know. But why does it kill this thing? It just acts like a bomb because it pops it, and instead of a whole bunch of air like slowly rushing out, it just explodes and that kills it.
Yeah, because it's like it folded in on itself too small and just That, yeah, I don't know.
The movie doesn't really care. The movie's just like, we killed it.
I don't think the movie really gave a flying fuck about what happened after. Like, after they get the shot, I think he kind of was just like, how do I end this as fast as possible? And basically just, like, put everybody, down.
Yeah. It's just, I don't know. Then it kills a bunch of people, and then we kill it. The end.
So Eric Vu also there. Helium is inert. It is not under a lot of pressure. Well, that would make it even worse. That it exploded and popped the thing outward like Blackguard Boltigan's skull.
What the fuck is what?
The Doctor Strange boy who whispers. And
okay, I know what you mean.
Another popping death that doesn't make a lot of sense,
Yeah, so in conclusion, the ending is terrible, and for me, the middle second act of the middle, like almost 50% of the movie was super boring and not engaging for me.
I'm not a scientist.
So, Hugh, clearly you enjoyed some of that second act more than I did. I didn't like it at all, so I was bored out of my mind waiting for the story to pick up again, and then it finally did, and I got excited, and then the ending is just awful. I think the ending is legitimately awful.
It is, it's pretty bad. I would agree with that, honestly.
I mean, okay, so I watched this in the theater pretty close to opening night. I think it was no, actually it wasn't opening night, but it was that weekend, opening weekend, right?
Yeah.
And it was Sunday at 12 in the afternoon, but it was a full theater. This is in Atlanta, or the Atlanta area. So a lot of the target demographic. There's a lot of advertisements for the movie around here. I don't know if it was around you.
No, not really.
Full ass theater, people were hyped. You know, people were laughing at the jokes. I was laughing at the jokes, especially early on. And then by the end of the credits rolled, and there was just no energy in the theater at all. It was dead. No one said a word, and people just got up and left.
Really?
And I was like, ooh, oh yeah. It had sucked the energy out of the room, because there was a lot of energy in the room at the beginning.
That's interesting. My theater seemed to react much more positively. I think they were all kind of confused, but they were like, huh, I think I liked that. Like, they were all kind of like looking at each other, being like, did we enjoy that? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. For like the theater I was in, by the end there was just no one was even talking. People just got up and left.
That's interesting.
And I definitely felt that. Like, I felt that energy in the room. I was like, that kind of sucked actually by the end. I mean, I thought there was a whole middle bit that was boring too, but like there wasn't nothing of redeeming value in that middle section before the cinematographer shows up and the movie actually gets going again. It's just like it felt
the fish sandwich, the stuff with Angel in his place is pretty bad. It's pretty like inconsequential. Nothing's really like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the alien showing up at night is pretty inconsequential. I like the stuff with what's his name, with Ricky Park, but then I don't like that they just kill him and he's gone from the movie. I'm like, I feel like you were setting him up as sort of an antagonist, and I thought there's a lot of interesting things you could do, especially with the conflict between him and OJ. And it's just like, nope, he's just dead now.
There was some potential for a Mars Attacks type thing to happen here, which would have been nice, because like all the characters in Mars Attacks really do get to end up like interacting with each other. They set them up in these same kind of ways.
Yeah. I like Mars Attacks. It's kind of dumb, but I liked it.
I mean, Mars Attacks is kind of like what I was sort of hoping I would get a little more of out of this movie.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, especially once we got to the twist where it's like, oh, it's an alien, and like it's a creature and it's eating people. I was like, oh,
yeah,
okay, all right, I mean, when you break it down by act structure, the second act is very like poorly done, but I thought the stuff in it was like interesting enough that I didn't really notice it. And I guess I just also didn't really notice that there kind of isn't a second act.
There isn't like a third act, you mean? I don't know. It's very confusing. It's very muddled. We lose the thread for a while, and he wanders off to do some other things he finds interesting. And it's not like they aren't interesting at all, but I'm just like, we lose the thread, and then by the end, it's like we don't tie anything together at the end. It's just, it stops.
It's done, yeah.
So, I don't know. Overall, I did not like it. I watched it a second time only for the sake of being sure what happened to the IMAX camera and like I only watched it a second time so I could criticize it better. I would not have watched this again if I were on my own, if I weren't reviewing it in this live stream. I didn't like it. I will never see it again, and I really, when it's all said and done, I don't care how good some stuff in it was. I wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I get that. I don't know. I still think that the stuff that worked well enough that I feel like I could enjoy it in the same way that I enjoyed something like Tremors 2. Where it's like I know that there's a lot of dumb conveniences and weird things. I don't know. I'd have to see it again, because I felt the same way about Us, and then I watched Us a second time, and I actually didn't care for it as much.
Yeah.
And
I think you would like it less on a rewatch. Maybe it might not fall as much as like Us did, but I think you would. I think what I hope, for my sake, is that you would agree that some things get worse on a rewatch.
Well, I can
realize where it goes, you know.
I mean, there are definitely things that are already getting worse just by talking through it.
Yeah.
because I mean, the barbed wire. I'm still hung up on the barbed wire thing. This is like that. I really thought that was happening, and I was buying
What
in.
would you maybe give it out of 10, and or how does it compare to his other two movies?
Hmm. That's interesting because I haven't rewatched Get Out for a while,
I feel pretty confident that
but I think
despite any problems that Get Out has, and I do think it has some script issues, at least it has a more coherent story.
yeah.
I would have to give it to Get Out over this. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
I
I don't
don't
know.
like.
I liked the idea behind the premise of this one better than I liked the premise of Get Out, I think.
Yes, no, I agree with that. I think if the second and third acts of this movie were as good as the first one and like really
Yeah.
drove it all home, this would definitely be his best movie.
Uh,
But
there
it doesn't.
is there is not a lot of camp in this movie. It is
There's some jokes.
there's some
But
jokes and there's some
it's
good
not campy.
yeah, there's some humor that works. And or I feel like it works anyway. And then it's got the
Yeah,
OJ jokes and like, you know,
there's
those
some
are always
there's
funny
some
to
good
me.
jokes. There are good jokes. I wouldn't say it's campy. It's definitely not like Mars Attacks, goofy where it's not taking itself too seriously. I think the movie, like, there are some jokes, but it takes itself fairly
But
seriously.
yeah,
Not in a bad way. It's just I wouldn't describe it as campy.
yeah, no. And yeah, Get Out does have an ending. Like whether or not you prefer that ending or like the, you know, the whatever his original one was, or whether or not you think
Yeah.
it's a good ending, like at least Get Out does end. So there is that. And
It
us
has a much more intact story where like characters have arcs
oh,
and resolutions.
I think
You know?
I'd have to I'd have to rewatch it. But I think I might prefer this one over Us. Cuz
Okay.
has Us just doesn't have the same kind of like character depth that this one creates with
Yeah.
some of these moments, and the writing behind, at the very least, like the writing behind OJ and Ricky is really really strong.
Yeah. I agree with that.
And
That's
Us doesn't
yeah.
quite have that same upside going for it, and it
Mhm.
also doesn't have the gross like body horror scene of somebody being digested by an alien, and it doesn't have like the other like the fun action stuff. I don't know. I liked Us when I watched it too, but I think I would probably put this one over Us for
Okay,
at the
that's fair.
moment. But if I rewatched it, it might slip because Us slipped too.
Yeah. I think what might elevate this over Us. I haven't seen Us, but I'm just like, tell me if you think this is fair. This movie doesn't seem to sacrifice everything for the sake of like a metaphor or like a message.
Yeah,
There's
and a
some
very
interesting.
confused
There's some
message.
interesting. There's some interesting themes here. They're a little muddled by the plot and like what actually happens, but there are ideas here that are interesting if the movie was better executed. Whereas like it seemed like Us was like nothing that literally happens makes any fucking sense, but it's about social commentary, so it's good, and that drives me up a wall.
And it's a
Which is why
very
I still haven't seen
bizarre
it.
social commentary that doesn't
Yeah,
quite. I don't really know what he was getting at with that. Like, I'm still kind of confused about what he wanted to say with Us
yeah,
because I don't think he knew exactly what he wanted to say
no.
with it. He just kind of went with
Get
it.
Out has a more straightforward social commentary. It's a little racist, but it's there. See, that's they're all kind of very different in some
Yeah.
ways, you know. Get Out, like the message is straightforward. The movie thinks that white people want to like steal black people's bodies, and like I don't know, you know what I mean? Like
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
a message, but it's basically that all white people are kind of shitty. So I'm like, oh, that's kind of racist. It's like it's a little like Men in that way, like where you could phrase it a bit more nuanced, but at the core, it's still kind of white people bad. Um, and like, yeah, don't get me wrong, Get Out has some stupid, contrived nonsense plotting, but I mean, if you're thinking about the story and like the journey the character, like the main character goes on,
And whether or not it's
and the
fulfilled.
fact that whether the main dramatic question, which is like the main question posed by the premise and the inciting incident, like whether that's answered at all. Like
Get Out
answers
definitely
that
takes
question.
Get Out
Nope.
takes the cake on that
Nope
one.
doesn't
No
answer
chance.
that question.
Us barely
You know what I mean? Like,
answers that question.
Yeah. Why are you nitpicking so much? Don't you know this is a movie about space aliens intended for children?
Yeah, Jamie. Just turn your
Definitely
brain off
not-
and don't think about all the stuff, and you'll enjoy
Definitely
it.
not intended for children. especially
Only think about the good
boring.
stuff. That's what I'm doing.
Yeah. Only think about the ideas. Only think about what the movie has to say about spectacle, which I'm not even.
I'm not even really like thinking about
I don't
that.
want to get
just,
into
like,
what the movie actually thinks about these ideas
I don't think.
because I don't think it has a lot of coherent thoughts.
Yeah, I don't care about that. I didn't think about that once when I was watching it. I was just pleasantly surprised that it was a giant super predator and not a group of racist aliens that want black people's land or something like that.
Yeah.
I was very happy that didn't end up that way, and I was like, okay, I'm not gonna
Fair.
even think about social messaging. I'm just gonna look at whatever this is, and I liked a couple of characters enough that I would probably give it like a 5. I would say
I'm gonna have to go probably. See, it's
maybe a 5.5.
I can't go any higher than a 4. I could see myself going lower than a 4, only because of like the wasted potential. It kind of depends how you think about these sort of things when you're rating them. Like, does it get a higher score if there are things that were good that are wasted, or you know what I mean, because it had good things in it, or do you give it or is that worse because it had good things and it ruined them? I don't,
Yeah, I don't know. I would say that like the fact that it has so much that I found pretty effective. Yeah.
I'm gonna give it a 4.
I'm gonna give it a benefit.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give it like a 5.5.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
Anyway, so is Nope dope? It is not dope. It is not a dope
some stuff in it is dope, but most of Nope is not dope.
Correct.
Well, most of the ending of Nope. The ending is pretty.
The ending is terrible. And hopefully the ending of this stream will be a little better. Thank you for watching us talk about this movie. I hope we
appreciate
didn't
you guys
too much. I wouldn't recommend it.
I don't know. I might.
If you did recommend it, I could understand it.
It's not like, I mean, it's better than Thor: Love and Thunder. So if you're gonna be in a movie theater and you're gonna go watch a movie, pick this one instead of that.
Things. It's better than Men was.
It's better than Men.
Yeah, I think this is going to be another movie that gets way more praise than it deserves, though. I can definitely feel that coming already based on the reviews. You know how you can tell when a movie isn't actually very good, but like a print critic wants to praise it. They'll be like, "Oh, it was very ambitious, and it didn't quite nail everything."
It doesn't quite live up to its themes, but 8 out of 10 anyway.
Yeah.
It's got a little something for everyone.
Exactly. Oh, it was super ambitious, And while, it fumbled a couple things, points for trying. It's like, oh, God. So it's not very good then.
Do you have any recommendations? Last time we recommended The Northman and Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I also just rewatched today. And I enjoy that movie a little bit more than I did the first time, actually.
Yeah, those are good. What have we... I don't know. I've been watching a lot of bad shit recently.
I watched Yojimbo, Akira Kurosawa. It's great.
Oh, I got something I can pretty confidently recommend. The Black Phone was pretty good.
Oh yeah, I heard it. No, I haven't seen it yet. No, it's out of theaters here already.
Oh wow.
Yeah, they kicked it out quick for Nope.
Yeah, the Black Phone is pretty solid. It's got really good character work. It's got a very simple, supernaturally Stephen King premise. The main kid actor is good. Ethan Hawke is a creepy villain. It's a very simple kind of story where he's got to survive someone who's trying to do bad things to him, and he does.
I hear that has
And
a little bit of a Stranger Things vibe.
it does. It's a little like Stranger Things in that it's about like a kid trying to solve this kind of horrific problem circumstance that they're in like the best they can. It takes place in the 70s, not the 80s, so it doesn't
okay.
quite it doesn't have the same like 80s nostalgia skin over it, but there's a little bit of Stranger Things in there, and that like it's a, you know, a little like a young kid about the same age is like facing this horrible villain and like
Interesting.
trying to survive.
I
It's good.
really want to see that. Yeah. Actually, it turns out the girlfriend was at first I thought a little upset because I thought she was interested in seeing Nope, and I was going on my own to see it and like for the stream.
Yeah.
And turns out she did not realize I was seeing Nope. She thought I was seeing the Black Phone, and that's why she was upset.
Ah.
So I reassured her that we
Yeah,
would
I think you'd
go and
both
see
like
that later.
it. I think anyone listening to this would probably enjoy the Black Phone as well. I thought it was going to be pretty bottom of the barrel, like get teenage butts in seats kind of horror movie, and I was pleasantly surprised. It is a Blumhouse movie, so like that didn't bode well at first, but it's pretty good. It's got a solid premise. You know, it's just a pretty nice little horror movie. I like it.
And you know, if you're looking for a little bit of classic stuff, Yojimbo is on HBO Max, and it's got one of the best actors probably of all time, I would say, Toshiro Mifune, and he's doing a great job. And
Yeah, he's great. He's got to be one of the best.
yeah, fantastic. And it's one of his best samurai movies, and you should watch it, especially if you're a fan of Star Wars. You would probably get a real kick out of the movie. George Lucas was very inspired by it.
That's true. That's a good point. All right.
Blumhouse made Whiplash?
Yeah, they did.
Oh, fuck.
So, well, here's
Wow.
the thing. Blumhouse has produced two movies, I think, almost exactly two movies that aren't just straight down the middle, relatively cheap to make horror movies, and they're Whiplash and Get Out.
Wow.
Get Out is a Blumhouse movie. It's probably their most successful one.
Okay, well. That's...
The more you know.
Yeah, I did not know that.
Oh, I saw this really bad Blumhouse movie on Amazon Prime with Sydney Sweeney, the girl who's in Euphoria.
Oh, yeah, that chick, yeah.
Where it's like, I think it's, yeah, it's like she's a music student, and she has this quote-unquote music theory textbook, but really it's just a notebook with a bunch of scribblings in it, and it like makes her go crazy. It's really bad. It's really, really, really bad. It's called Nocturne. If you want a good laugh, that's a fun movie to watch. It's terrible. So that's what I thought the Black Phone was going to be, and I was pleasantly surprised when it was decent.
All right. Yeah, I'm going to go see Bullet Train in a couple weeks, too, because that looks...
All right, Bullet Train. That, I don't have high hopes. I'm going to go in with low expectations on that one, but it could be fun. I like Brad Pitt a lot. I feel like I can't... I'd go see anything.
Yeah, I liked Atomic Blonde also. It's by the same guy as Atomic Blonde in the first John Wick, I think. And I liked both of those movies, so I'm hopeful that...
Wait, you liked Atomic Blonde, and you can believe Charlize Theron is beating up all those people?
No, I just thought it looked cool. It's shot in a very sleek way, and it's got an interesting enough story for me that I was like, okay, I don't really care that Charlize Theron doesn't look like she could take any of these people in a fight. I'm fine with this.
Fair. All right. Well,
yeah.
I think that about does it for us. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much.
It. Thank you for listening to us talk about Nope. If you have seen the movie, I'm glad you decided to check out what we thought about it. If you didn't, I hope we didn't ruin it for you.
If you didn't and you don't want to now, that is completely understandable. And if you didn't and you feel like checking it out, you could also do that. I think there's some stuff in there that, you know, if it comes on TV or something, if it's on HBO eventually, which, you know, let's face it, it's probably going to, Yeah, you'd probably turn it on, get something out of it. But
don't do it. Don't do it. Don't watch it. It'll waste all the things you like about it. All right.
All right.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Have a good night.